Greeting, bonjour, assalamu alaikum, buenos dias, привет. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à cette importante conférence qui s'inscrit dans la continuité des activités de l'OMD pour servir ses membres et visant à promouvoir le capital humain douanier, source d'avantages distinctifs. À titre de rappel, nous avons organisé l'année dernière 3 conférences, une mondiale et 2 régionales, qui ont permis de développer 2 guides selon les règles de l'art, un pour la gestion du capital humain durant et au-delà de la crise, mais un autre aussi pour faciliter la transition avec succès vers la formation digitale en direct. Cette conférence qui, par hasard, arrive et tombe le même jour de la journée mondiale de la santé mondiale organisée par l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, est organisée avec le soutien financier SECO à travers le Programme mondial de facilitation des échanges et vient en réponse à la demande du membre durant le comité de renforcement de capacité. Il fait partie, par contre, d'un ensemble d'activités à venir dans le futur pour qu'ensemble, nous repensons et nous réfléchissons sur le futur du travail en douane, tout en capitalisant sur les expériences et les leçons apprises durant la COVID-19, mais tout en misant sur l'élément humain et la technologie. En temps normal comme en temps de crise ou de périodes difficiles, la douane demeure l'une des agences publiques qui reste opérationnelle. Dès lors, beaucoup de nos collègues ont perdu la vie en s'investissant cœur et âme, non seulement durant la COVID-19, mais aussi dans le cadre de leurs fonctions nobles. En mémoire à ces braves personnes qui ont perdu la vie dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions, je vous invite cordialement à vous lever et de marquer une minute de silence, s'il vous plaît. Merci beaucoup. The following are the housekeeping rules. In order to cover all the 3 sessions in 3 hours, we request kindly your support and cooperation. Speakers are kindly requested and encouraged to keep their interventions to the allocated time. Participants are strongly encouraged to send their questions and input using the chat and messaging box. However, we will open the floor for a question and answer from the floor and also from our colleagues who are joining us online for a 1 question from each part. For the sake of time, we'll accept only 2 questions. One question from the floor, from you who are participating here, but also from our colleagues who are joining us online. For panelists who are joining us online, the moderator will introduce you and the Zoom operator will invite you to the floor as a panelist. You will then have the control to activate your camera and microphone as well to share the screen. The conference will be conducted in 5 languages: Arabic, English, French, Russian, and Spanish, with simultaneous interpretation. You can choose the language channel at the bottom of your screen global icon. The conference will be recorded for all colleagues who wasn't able to join us and will be available to the global customs community and WCO partners. You will find the link to the recording on the conference web page at the WCO website. We are happy today to have about 1,000 registered participants from 175 countries, including 150 in-person participants. Thanks to all of you for making yourself available and participating with us to this important event. This shows us the critical importance of this topic. The conference will be facilitated by 21 widely recognized leaders in their industry, Customs Administration DGs and Customs Human Capital Management Directors, international organization, private sector, and consultant, who will share with us their innovative perspective and learning points during this conference. I take this opportunity to thank all of them, as well as the moderator who honored us with their participation despite a heavy schedule. I wish all of us a successful deliberation and discussion. I will kindly invite our Secretary General, Dr. Konyo Mukuria, to deliver his keynote speech. Please.
Merci Mohamed pour votre introduction et l'organisation de cette conférence. C'est un grand plaisir pour moi de participer à cette conférence à l'ouverture. Et je vois que ce thème de ressources humaines qui a donné beaucoup d'impulsion de venir participer à cette conférence. C'est un plaisir vraiment pour moi de voir beaucoup de participants en personne. Of course, I also appreciate your participation online, and that shows how important this human resource or human capital management is. WCO develops standards and guidelines, best practices, and many tools, and also WCO supports technology. But without people who actually implement WCO tools and use technology, we can't make a difference. So this is why this human resource matter is very important. And we are living in the world of digital technology. And as was already said, we are amid the digital transformation. And digital transformation really requires a change in mindset in managing custom processes and, of course, supporting human resource management. Well, we really came out from the COVID-19, and during the COVID-19, it became very clear that we need to utilize digital technologies towards paperless trade and contactless clearance. We see that we have made a lot of progress in that area. And also, our business partners who also utilize technology have a lot of expectation for customers to continue this digital transformation journey. We see that not only paperless, receive paperless declaration or any submission, but also in terms of inspection, we often start to see smart inspection or smart validation, and using online communication with business without physical contact. And for that, of course, we need enhanced risk management. So we always see that trade facilitation, but also protection of society based on risk management is necessary. And for that reason, we identified one of major priority is how to use data. Well, you might have heard about the data strategy of the WCO. So ensure access to data and ensure data accuracy and making data meaningful for risk management is important. But to support this one, the working arrangement or working method should also go through transformation. And during the COVID-19 period, we often experienced teleworking complete teleworking or remote working. And but during that period, we didn't really see lowering productivity, or rather maintain high productivity. And also another important area is that while teleworking remotely, but we continue to keep social engagement. So nowadays, I'm faced with balancing action. Currently, we ask staff member to come to office 3 days, but 2 days you can telework, because in that way we can promote high productivity, because coming to office is not necessarily productive, but also if you stay away or isolated from your colleagues, that doesn't help you to keep productivity. So that balancing act is really important. And so I see that gradually we are moving towards hybrid customs administrations, both externally to engage with our business partners, and internally. Well, in this aspect, what we need is really taking a human-centric approach, because how we design work environment and work organization is very important. Whether to what extent we introduce remote working, and also in supporting digital transformation, responding to our staff needs is important, and how to make sure that they are familiar with the technology, and in that way we can keep new normal, so to speak, including the high use of technology, but also caring staff well-being, and thereby, of course, retain talents in customs. Well, of course, another consideration that we need to take is green customs, because we are all trying to contribute to sustainable development goal, and we have to think about customs carbon footprint. To reduce carbon footprint is also a very important topic, that how to design our customs work. And with this new direction, going back to old normal just before the pandemic is not giving your economy competitiveness, because globally we are moving into that area. And also, earlier I talked about data, and human resource management or human capital management by data has become also important element. Well, this conference is supposed to contribute to the Customs Work Organization Forum, which will be established among members, but also our Policy Commission debate in December, and of course for next year's council session, how we can address this human capital management. And for that, when I go visit your country, sometimes I see really starting that transformation or difference in human resource management. Therefore, I hope that you can share your experiences, challenges that you encountered, lessons learned, and of course, some success stories to inspire our members, because our capacity building efforts is quite often inspire our members and to change their mindset to move into modernizing customs administrations. Therefore, I really wish you a fruitful discussion, changing your ideas. We have, I have to appreciate SECO for organizing this conference, and also Abu Dhabi Customs for organizing that opportunity for in-person people to exchange views. And finally, it is up to you to provide us good material for the future thinking, good food for thought, and prepare members full discussion on how best we can address human management, human resource management. And I wish you a very successful conference for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for an insightful speech that paves the way for a successful conference. I will move now to panel 1, where we'll be discussing how now we can shape well-being ecosystem in a customs environment through effective leadership. Yeah. Sorry? No, we can stay. Yeah. Employee well-being is an umbrella term referring to the various aspects of an employee's experience that support their overall health and happiness, both within and outside of work, and target multiple levels. Individuals, teams, and organizations, it includes 7 dimensions: physical, mental, interpersonal, financial, purpose, and belonging. Organizations are increasingly recognizing the importance of employee well-being for organizational success. However, many organizations do not have a well-being program in place. Organizations that do offer a well-being program fail to leverage it to its full potential due to limited uptake and awareness among employees. Organizations must embed a focus on employee well-being into their day-to-day operations and process, culture, and leadership to thrive in today's environment. This requires a shift from viewing a well-being program as a couple of standalone initiatives to understanding it takes an integrated and holistic approach to achieve organizational objective while meeting employee needs and addressing systemic barriers. To shed the light on this important topic, I'm delighted and honored to welcome eminent panelists, whom I thank very much for their participation to this important event, despite a very busy schedule. I invite Ms. Marilu Aibar, Deputy National Dependent of Customs Administration, SUNAT. Thank you, Madam, for joining us. I know that it's very early, but thanks for honoring us today. Here in my left, an honor to have Chairman of State Customs Committee of Uzbekistan, Mr. Akmal Khuja Mavlonov. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin Peter, Deputy Head of Trade Promotion at the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And Mr. Tobias Staller, Managing Director of PwC Geneva. Thank you so much, Mr. Tobias. Yeah, I would like to start with you, Mr. Tobias. And I read that you recently concluded a global force survey, which you titled Hopes and Fears Survey 2022. Please, could you give us and share with us the main findings and learning points of this study regarding the employee experience? Thank you.
You need to press anything?
Yeah, you have to push.
This
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mohammed, and good day, good afternoon to everyone. Very happy to do so. What we did at PwC, we conducted a survey, Hopes and Fears of Workers and Employees across the world. We surveyed more than 52,000 people across 44 countries, and we covered all the sectors. 15% of them came from the public sector, so we try to represent all the sectors as they are. The findings that we found were very, very clear, and were confirming what we do see in our daily work. And it's really about that people, workers are feeling much more empowered than ever before. And we see that what we're looking for is slightly different than before. We're actually looking for places where they can match their own purpose to the values that they see in the organization. We also see that the key thing what they have in mind is less so now their employment, but much more the employability. So we see that they're looking for development, personal development and adaptation. This now leads to a clear call to especially leadership, and as Mohammed, you were mentioning that before, it's a clear call to leaders to look at their workers across the organizations to provide them the right experience and also the right place to thrive. If we now look at the findings in a little bit more detail, let me outline 5 key ones that we see. Number one, we heard about it, it's like the Great Resignation. We do see that in the survey as well. 1 out of 5 people intend to leave their organization in the next 12 months. 1 out of 4 people, they intend to ask for a raise, money-wise. And if you look at the key topics that they see, number 1 is still pay. But the slight difference now is they don't look at the absolute pay, they look at the fair pay. It's about transparency, and it's about coming to work and being who they are and connecting to purpose. So purpose is the next currency. And I always say that within UN agencies and also non-for-profit agencies, this is a huge asset because you have purpose in abundance, which is a great thing. The only caveat we see is there's still a strong gender gap of roughly about 7% between women and men, and that's something we need to close going forward. The second key topic is empowerment. We see that people are striving for learning, and they're more satisfied if they have learned and they feel that they can learn. And that satisfaction translates into retention. They stay longer in the organization. One key caveat that we felt was interesting is that about all generations, it was roughly about the same, except Generation Z. Generation Z is most worried about being prepared for the future. So something to be mindful of. They seem to know more what's coming, or they see more things that are moving, so we need to help them. Third key topic is also really interesting, but caught most of the media attention. It's that people tend to have conversations about societal and conflict topics at work, but has shifted. We used to do that in our families with our friends. Now, after my personal hypothesis is it's because of COVID. We did that at home. Now, coming back to work, we're translating that into the workplace. And the thing is, this has a positive output on the work performance. People feel safer at work if we can give them that space to talk about it. Currently, underdeveloped, we don't really manage it. The output currently is positive, so creating a safe space at work, which is connected to well-being, is something extremely helpful. The fourth key point is that we see people, I talked about the purpose, connection to purpose, that evolves further. It's about connecting to a greater service for society. So people are looking for organizations that do something in service of more than just making money. The key thing there is that's something that we actually all know. It's like the ESG target, sustainability, and so forth. However, what we see right now, there's also a disappointment there. So people ask for it. However, the confidence level that the organization is actually really doing it is much lower, by 10% points. So for instance, I go out there and I say I stand for net zero, but then I see in the actions within my work, be it my flight booking, be it my cafeteria, be it the decisions that I'm taking, they are different, they differ. This is something to be mindful of, because that is, if it's not authentic, people will actually be disappointed, may stay away. Last point, we heard it from the chairman as well, hybrid. Hybrid is here to stay. We have seen that overwhelmingly, that people are asking for it. People who have seen it want to keep it. We just need to be mindful of, if we look at the whole world, only 50% of the world are actually able to work remotely. So we just keep that in mind. We always talk about the new normal between remote and on-site. 50% of people have to be on-site for various reasons. So what we see is it's our opportunity, and it's the leadership ask, but we find ways to increase the autonomy, flexibility of our people, to offer more choice in what they do, and to empower them to go one step further to actually develop as they are. And these are the key things that we see out of that survey, but also in our daily work. It's really a leadership call to action to really find those spots, to look at workers and employees as a whole and as an individual, to provide the space and opportunity and choice and flexibility to further develop. And this will translate into retention, into engagement, into the satisfaction, into actually, at the end of the day, the high performance that we all are striving for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tobias. I can see that leaders, they have a lot of things in their plates, and the urgent thing to rethink the workplace, but also to rethink workforce management and work process. Yeah, I will move now to Ms. Marilu. Yeah, now we can what we heard from SG and from Mr. Tobias, that leadership is crucial in establishing a sustainable well-being culture in an organization. Can you share with us how SONAT, under your leadership, support the establishment and sustainability of a well-being culture?
Gracias, estimado Sir Mohamed. Saludos al secretario general, representantes de OMA y todos los presentes. Gracias por realizar en este formato mixto y también en diversos idiomas. Quiero reflexionar de que estamos en otra etapa de nuestras vidas, ya recuperándonos de la pandemia. Y amigos, las cosas han cambiado en nuestro centro laboral. Mucha gente ha tenido que pasar al trabajo remoto porque no podía hacer trabajo laboral por sus condiciones de riesgo o porque no podía simplemente asistir por las condiciones de trabajo que tenía. Y muchos de nuestros compañeros de trabajo, nuestros colegas en aduanas, han conocido lo que es el trabajo virtual, el no ir a la oficina. También muchos han utilizado tecnología. El trabajo de las aduanas es en su mayoría estar en las fronteras. Y estos 2 años que hemos estado en confinamiento, la gente ha aprendido a valorar nuevamente el estar en casa, el almorzar con su familia, en compartir con la familia. Muchos de los trabajadores, de todos nosotros, no habíamos tenido la oportunidad de compartir almuerzos, el colegio, y ahora sí. Y créanme que ahora se valora muchísimo más el tiempo en familia. Se valora mucho más la vida, la posibilidad de ir a trabajar, de sobrevivir. Por eso es que en el centro laboral, en las aduanas, estamos considerando que efectivamente quizás la forma como veníamos tratando los aspectos de cultura, de clima laboral, efectivamente tienen que cambiar y han cambiado. En el caso de Perú, sabemos y hemos reflexionado que las personas necesitan un desarrollo integral, tanto en lo profesional como en lo personal, y deben sentir que en la aduana, en su institución, pueden tener un desarrollo integral, que no tienen que sacrificar su vida personal, las mujeres no tienen que sacrificar el hecho de ser madres para seguir avanzando en la institución. Por eso que hemos implementado una serie de nuevas actividades para que los colaboradores efectivamente sientan que pueden desarrollarse integralmente, y en esta nueva etapa el uso de la tecnología ayuda muchísimo. Los colaboradores han entendido que la tecnología está para usarse Y tenemos más posibilidades de, incluso los líderes, llegar a las personas con la tecnología. A nivel nacional podemos reunirnos con ellos y directamente recoger las expectativas, las necesidades. Y ahí hemos visto que lo que la gente, las personas, los trabajadores ahora necesitan es sentirse seguros en cuanto a su salud, necesitan también estar en un ambiente donde pueden seguir desarrollándose en todos sus aspectos, y lo que quieren también es tener esa cultura de felicidad. Felicidad en el sentido de poder vivir y compartir y trabajar un día más en un ambiente donde se le valora. Nosotros hemos implementado mecanismos como es la línea Aló Clima, que es básicamente un servicio de apoyo psicológico y emocional para las personas que vela por su salud mental, porque eso también es algo que se ha puesto en manifiesto. Un aspecto que yo quiero resaltar es el ir directamente a las sedes laborales de Fronteras. ¿Cuánto impacta que los líderes estén en el campo preguntando qué es lo que necesita el colaborador para hacer mejor su trabajo? Créanme que las encuestas, lo que se puede relevar en el campo es muy importante, y déjenme decirles que lo que dicen los colaboradores y lo que quieren los colaboradores, primero es ser visibles, saber que estamos ahí los líderes y queremos saber qué es lo que necesitan. Tenemos un lema aquí en Perú: 70% escuchar, 30% hablar y 100% actuar de parte de los líderes. Creo que eso es lo mejor. Y un punto final: los jóvenes tienen otra cultura diferente al promedio de las aduanas. Por eso es que para ellos es necesario sentir que se están desarrollando y que es un lugar donde ellos pueden desarrollarse integralmente, profesionalmente, y también que el uso de la tecnología es algo que es accesible para ellos. Y hay algo que también decimos en SUNAT, en la aduana, es el techo en la parte laboral es muy alto en las aduanas, incluso trasciende la misma institución. Tenemos grandes ejemplos ahí mismo en la Organización Mundial de Aduana de compañeros que están laborando como oficiales técnicos o como profesionales asociados. Ese es un techo que no tiene límites, y creo que es algo que también ahora con la tecnología se ha valorado más, la posibilidad de que los profesionales se desarrollen dentro de su institución e incluso internacionalmente. Así es que esos son los retos que tenemos. Recalco el líder de campo, el líder que está directamente con los colaboradores, dándose tiempo para hablar con ellos, tanto presencialmente y ahora virtualmente a través de estos canales. Muchas gracias, y Mohamed.
Thank you very much, Marilu, for being also an authentic leader. Really insightful. Yeah, I will move now to Mr. Chairman. And during my last mission, I really noticed this high level of belonging within your staff. And we mentioned in the introduction that one of the main components of a well-being program is belonging. Can you please share with us what under your leadership you did to foster the belonging feeling within your staff?
Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники этой конференции. Во-первых, выражаю признательность секретариату ВТАМО и также господину Кунио Микуре за организацию столь масштабной конференции. И также хочу поблагодарить лично за приглашение и на участие в этой конференции. Да, пандемия нас к многому научила. Также в Узбекистане тоже в сфере таможенных служб мы тоже во время пандемии из-за этой болезни потеряли несколько своих сотрудников. Исходя из этого, мы поняли, насколько ценный профессиональный кадр в таможенной службе. Мы поставили цель создать все условия для сотрудников, чтобы не искоренить коррупцию и не потерять в дальнейшем наших своих профессиональных кадров. В начале текущего года, в феврале месяце, наш уважаемый президент Шавкат Миромонович Мирзияев встретился с сотрудниками таможенных органов. Это произошло в истории Узбекистана первый раз, когда встречается президент с сотрудниками таможенных структур. И дал в этом видеоселекторном совещании всем нам, таможенникам, в первую очередь изучить все проблемы в структуре и сделать полностью социальную защиту для работников этой службы. Исходя из этого, мы создали экспертную группу, которая выезжала на местах, побывала в отдаленных пунктах, побывала в пограничных постах и вели беседование с каждым работником таможенной структуры. После этого они вышли с предложениями, которые они узнали, какие существуют проблемы в службе таможенных структур. Исходя из этого, мы утвердили концепцию развития по важным направлениям. В первую очередь, на сегодняшний день мы строим здание в таможенной структуре медицинского пункта, оснащенным со всеми медицинскими оборудованиями, чтобы в первую очередь создать условия сохранить здоровье нашим сотрудникам. Я готовился к этому конференции, подготовил очень большой доклад, но, исходя из регламента, я хочу остановиться на некоторых частях, которые мы проделали, касающиеся наших работников. Мы создали в первую очередь комфортные условия для работников таможенной службы. Во-первых, укрепили полностью материально-техническую базу, улучшили инфраструктуру постов, оптимизировали нагрузку на сотрудников, создали центры электронного оформления. Также повысили уровень материального обеспечения сотрудников, ввели надбавки за результативность. Кто делает результаты, мы обязательно добавляем надбавки ихним зарплатам. За знание иностранных языков этого тоже не было. За знание иностранных языков мы доплачиваем сумму в их заработные платы. За научную степень, за тяжелые условия труда. Вы, как знаете, пограничные посты находятся в отдаленных пунктах нашей республики, в горах, в пустынях. Поэтому за этот труд тоже мы добавляем на зарплату надбавки. За работу со сканирующим оборудованием. На сегодняшний день 114 работников таможенной службы работают с сканирующими оборудованиями. Им тоже платятся надбавки. И присвоение классных категорий. И также платим надбавки специалистам узких направлений. На сегодняшний день, как вы сами знаете, IT-технологии на первом уровне. Без цифровизации таможни деться некуда. Также повысили уровень материального обеспечения. Значит, выплачиваем компенсацию за аренду жилья. Оплачиваем первый взнос ипотечного кредита. Даем суды для улучшения бытовых условий. Повысили звание сотрудников на одну ступень выше, чем это предусмотрено должностью. Внедрили также справедливый механизм поощрения, исходя из реальной продуктивности, за выявление крупной контрабанды, за выявление крупных фактов уклонения от уплаты таможенных платежей, за выигрыш в суде. У нас, как и у всех, бывает судебные разбирательства. За призовые места в разных турнирах, в разных соревнованиях, за внедрение инновационных идей. В целях выработки у сотрудника чувства гордости и значимости его работы мы поощряем лучших сотрудников, независимо от пола, возраста, национальности и должности. Проявивших себя молодых сотрудников, в том числе женщин, назначаем на руководящие должности. Если раньше средний возраст руководящего состава составлял 50-55 лет, но на сегодняшний день это составляет 35 лет. Организован порядок, в соответствии с которым весь личный состав вовлечен в проводимую работу. Пандемия научила нас проводить общие мероприятия в онлайн-режиме, что позволяет охватывать максимальное количество сотрудников, независимо от их отдаленности и должности. После моего назначения впервые на эти заседания были, и до сих пор мы продолжаем эту практику, приглашаем всех сотрудников службы до конца, до самого последнего инспектора. Потому что они работают на местах, они исполнители, они на сегодняшний день слышат от самого руководителя таможенной службы, что нужно делать, по какому направлению нужно идти. До этого у них такого не было. Пока дойдет до него поручение самого высшего руководителя таможенной службы, это все менялось. Поэтому мы сделали так, чтобы он лично услышал от уст руководителя таможенной службы все поручения и указания. И на этих встречах каждый сотрудник может выразить свои мнения. Каждый младший инспектор может сказать о своих проблемах и дать свои предложения об улучшении нашей работы. Регулярно проводится опросное анкетирование также среди сотрудников. Мы узнаем, какие проблемы и предложения, и вовремя мы их лечим. Уделили особое внимание повышению имиджа таможенных органов среди общества. Для этого мы привлекли известных культурных и общественных деятелей, были написаны стихи, были исполнены песни про таможенников и про работу таможни, сняты клипы о нашей работе. Сейчас снимаем сериал, состоящий из 48 серий. В результате у сотрудников мы постепенно смогли сформировать чувство гордости к своей работе. Мы также продолжаем. Я просто остановился на некоторых частях. Мы много что еще сделали. Об этом еще мы можем дальше опубликовать в СМИ. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think you inspire many of people in this conference because you are coming with actionable recommendation and practical element that we can do, and it's not costing a lot of money, but it's all about leadership. Thank you very much, Chairman. I will move now to Mr. Peter. First of all, I will join my voice to our SG about thanking you for all your support that you are doing for the international customs community, but more especially for funding this conference and making that we can talk any language and we can understand each other. Thank you so much. As SECO is a global provider of capacity building support to the world, how does SECO embed well-being in its capacity building program? Can you please describe and share with us one of your successful experience in strengthening well-being to an organization or to a beneficiary country? Please.
Hello, buenos días, good afternoon to everyone. from Switzerland. Thank you very much for this question and also for inviting me to this panel. First of all, please allow me to quickly provide some background information on the work of the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, or SECO, and the Global Trade Facilitation Program, which is implemented by WCO. Well, the aim of our economic cooperation is to promote economic growth and sustainable prosperity in partner developing countries. And but this goal, one of the key areas of work is to support partner countries in integrating into global trading systems and improving their access to global markets. And in this context, the Global Trade Facilitation Program implemented by the WCO is one of our flagship programs. Concretely, the program supports customs administrations of selected partner countries in applying international standards and best practices regarding the import, export, and transit of goods. But the program does not only provide technical assistance to implement and improve procedures that increase efficiency and predictability at the borders. An equally important pillar of our program is organizational development. And this organizational development includes leadership and management development, as well as improved human resources development in general. You might ask yourself, well, why in a technical program, why this stress on human capital, excuse me. And actually, this is because we are convinced that human capital plays the most central role for an organization to move forward and to successfully implement any kind of reforms. In fact, people are the vital force and the determining factor that drives change. They are the most valuable asset within any organization. However, in the pursuit of many competing objectives, organizations often forsake the well-being of their employees. Now, how do we improve well-being through our program concretely? Well, one important element in our work through the program is enhancing customs HR strategies and in particular strengthening leadership and management skills of top and middle managers. And one concrete example in the context of the COVID crisis, the program implemented by the customs organization organized specific and tailor-made workshops on building resilience and managing stress for managers and technical customs officials. The program also conducted a number of successful virtual activities among the beneficiary countries that allowed to transfer knowledge and network with colleagues from other customs administrations. In the same way, an activity that is very well received by the beneficiary countries is a peer-to-peer learning model, including study visits between members. The model allowed fostering professional friendships and opened up more informal channels to exchange of experience and to exchange on good practices. Now, to wrap up, we at SECO are convinced that employees' well-being will improve the day-to-day performance of customs administrations. And I think it has also become very clear from the very insightful statements of previous speakers. Caring about the well-being of people, taking into account their ideas and their specific needs will improve management and empower employees, thus allowing these employees to better respond to the needs of their customs administrations and the trade community in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter. And thanks also for this holistic approach in capacity building and putting people at the heart of this capacity building. And thanks also for all what you are doing, as I mentioned earlier, and we hope that our partnership with you will still a long time. I will move now to Mr. Tobias again, asking for, I think this, all of us here following this conference, we are always, when we are thinking about well-being, we are always linking that with how much it will cost. And well-being is often misconceived as a costly initiative for organization. Based in your wide experience with numerous public agencies and private sector operators at global level, can you please, or could you please share with us the tangible benefits of establishing and implementing a well-being ecosystem for organization? In short, what was the financial return on investment, the value on investment, and the value added for employees, please?
Thank you for this question. As you might know, this is a question that we hear very often, however, not in this flavor, because what we do see is that well-being is a well-understood concept, but it's necessary. But what is more of a question is, it's the mechanics, how can I make it work? And the second question we see is, there's one cost component, but there's also an output component, and I will tell you a little bit more in a second. Firstly, just to look at well-being, we see the latest research, I actually read it yesterday, is that in the US, more than 90% of the organizations they have implemented some sort of well-being initiatives. The problem is, it's not so much that there are some initiatives, but the problem is that people don't make use of them. That is roughly about 50% less. And this is really concerning, because that means I pour money into something and nothing happens, no one's actually using it. Why is that? We see three main reasons. One key one is stigma. It's like well-being is still perceived as a weakness, and I don't want to come across as weak. As such, this is a leadership topic, going back to the initial statement and what we heard from our other esteemed speakers as well. It's really about leaders to making sure that it's okay not to be okay. So it's really a role modeling topic and making sure that they really provide that feeling across their employees and workers, in addition to listening. What we have seen has worked is we have provided inclusive leadership trainings. We have provided apps that allow anonymous check-in on well-being, which lower the barrier to actually talk about it and to get some help. So and there's various other topics as well. The second key topic is knowledge. Typically, people know about the yoga class that is going on. However, there's many more resources that are out there that people don't know about. And this is one of the key things that we see we need to help with. It's be it a website, be it an app, be it that we inform leaders and also middle management, and then ultimately also staff on what is available to them. The other one is access. It's not only an app, and maybe the leader is far away. We see that especially in UN agencies when we have field organizations. Let's think of UNHCR. They had their field organizations during the time of COVID. Luckily, what they did is they had established staff counselors in each of their field organizations, which meant that there was a person who they could connect with. So we need to think strategically, but also creatively about how can we foster the access to resources of well-being to our people, to making sure that they can actually make use of it. But this, having said this, if we now look at what are the benefits and what is the outcomes of well-being, we typically look at it from two levels. One is individually, and individually we need to look at it, and we heard it many times, we need to look specifically because every person is different. My needs are different from another person. I may need to sleep longer. I may be more prone to work under pressure. I may need less time in the evenings. I work at different business hours. I work more remotely. So we need to look at it on an individual basis. The other one is we need to look at it on an organizational basis. And we heard that as well. We heard culture many times. It's really about how can I scale that individual well-being and mental health to the organizational level. And this is where the magic happens, because it's more than the sum of all the pieces and all the parts. Let's look at it in a little bit more detail. On an individual level, we typically see three things. We see one, which is commitment. We see that people, when they feel well, they come to work and they are more committed. If they are more committed, they are typically more satisfied with work, they are more energized, they are more engaged, and we have a topic of, we talk about quiet quitting. we have much less of that quiet quitting. Although I would caveat that, quiet quitting after the fatigue of COVID is also to some extent setting boundaries. So we need to be very mindful that quiet quitting is not always bad. Quiet quitting is just in the sense of disengaging and then being reflected in the engagement score. That's the thing we need to be really worried about. So that's one part, it's the commitment. If people bring their whole self to work, they feel safe to show themselves and be there, they will be more productive and they will be longer in your organization. The second part we see is performance. The thing is, what we see is when people are healthy and when people are bringing their full self, they have slept well, they have eaten well, and they feel free of fear, they will have more capacity to do their work. I always refer to the fun story, my wife and I, when we go out and we need to make critical decisions, and sometimes we simply cannot do it. And we talk about it, say, oh, whoa, we need to take a break, we need glucose, we need to eat something. And it's just that tiny thing to take that break, and all of a sudden we come up with the decisions, and that works in the private world, but that translates into the business world as well. So it's not only that I bring more of my capacity, I can connect better with other colleagues and people, but also my decisions, I have access to more resources of my brain, and I'll be able to make better decisions going forward. Hence, there's a performance part in there as well. Interpersonally, we see that the connection, not only at work, but also the family, makes a huge difference. We see that, of course, if there's any help that we can provide for their work or for their life at home to make it easier for people, especially thinking of families, is an extreme help factor. What we do see, the example is if we can provide emergency childcare, if something breaks at home. Goes a long way. All of a sudden, there is much more ease at work. We see there is more work time available, and people they can show up differently at work. And lastly, what we obviously look at as an organization is how does that translate into our organizational performance? And this is the thing, of course, we can now mathematically go in and we can just sum up the individual performance commitment gains that we see, but it's much more than that, because we see that if individuals are performing, committed, they create environments of high performance. They create an environment which is contagious. And this contagion is then spreading across the organization. What we typically say, it's high-performing cultures of trust. And ultimately, it boils down to that one thing. It's about trust. I trust I can be myself at work. I trust I can speak up. I trust that I can actually also say I'm not okay if I'm at work. And this translates into the culture, but this culture then translates into the topics that we typically see when we look at the numbers. And let me just look at, I jotted down a couple. The key thing we always talk about is the engagement score. We see that over time, and there's ample studies that translates into performance. So that's indisputable. Second thing is we see lower attrition rates. That is one of the topics. Google started that. It's not about keeping people for their life, but it's just keeping them a little bit longer. This is what we do if we go into investing in well-being and mental health. It also translates into talent attraction. An attractive organization that provides an attractive experience at work is attractive to me from the outside as well. So it will get you a better and a stronger talent pool to tap into. The other thing, of course, we see lower rates of absenteeism, be it sick days, be it these are the classic numbers. But the key thing we also see is, and that's what we always forget, and that's what I said in the beginning, we talk about costs, but we also need to look at what is the outcome further to my own employees, and that is our customers. Because what we do see is, and many of you will have heard that many times, but the experience that we create, the employee experience, that translates into our customer experience. And we can see that in the Net Promoter Score. We can see that in customer satisfaction. We can see that in sales numbers. We can see that in the recurring customer numbers, loyalty numbers. We can see that in brand attractiveness numbers. So we always forget about this part. If we create that experience that is conducive to high performance and a trusting environment at work, that not only translates into high performance at work, but also into the world of our customers and reflects with our customers. So there's a huge uptake that we can see there, but will help us to make it worth our investment and to focus on it. And lastly, let me say that back to it's a leadership topic, but I love that quote from Richard Branson when he says, companies that care about their employees' health and well-being will be more likely to have employees who care about the company's health and well-being too. With that, I will leave you and give back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tobias. And now you show us that investing in people, it's always beneficial for both, for people, but also for organization, because sometimes it's not easy to show what is the benefit in investing in people. Maybe in investing in technology or new process, that can be easy to show, but thanks for showing that. Again, Ms. Marilu, we would like now to have like a concrete example from your organization, how you measure and track the well-being of your employee as well as the well-being impact on the organization. I'm sorry.
En SUNAT nosotros tenemos diversas encuestas de clima laboral para ver cómo está el bienestar de nuestros colaboradores. Y las cifras son muy buenas porque nos da que el 90% de colaboradores está satisfecho en el lugar donde está laborando. Sin embargo, estas encuestas que pueden ser una herramienta muy útil para medir a nivel nacional, somos 21 aduanas en costa, sierra y selva, son una base importante para su medición. Pero hay que también complementarlo con diferentes iniciativas, porque muchas veces la institución sabemos que estamos dando lo mejor de las condiciones de trabajo posibles y que por eso quizás hay un buen resultado del clima laboral, pero no debemos conformarnos con eso. En SUNAT, por ejemplo, hace 2 años hemos hecho concursos para ascender en la línea de carrera, estamos mejorando las condiciones de infraestructura y cuando vamos y les decía, preguntar directamente a los colaboradores y no hay que tener temor, las áreas de recursos humanos, los líderes, de preguntar directamente. Hay veces hay mucho temor para ver qué se puede recibir, quizás muchas quejas, pero no es así. Tenemos también yo le digo, esta encuesta directa, ¿no? Cuando uno pregunta directamente al líder, preguntar, ¿qué necesitas para hacer mejor tu trabajo o para sentirte mejor en tu aduana, trabajando en su institución? Y créanme, amigos, que efectivamente el resultado es un alto sentido de pertenencia y orgullo del trabajo que han realizado y han realizado sobre todo en pandemia. Pero hay aspectos también que se relevan directamente que no salen de las encuestas. Por ejemplo, nosotros estamos rediseñando todo el sistema, los procesos para la compra de uniformes, porque resulta que los uniformes es un elemento de diferentes aduanas para considerar más aún sus condiciones propias de la costa, de la sierra, de la selva. Son cosas que podemos hacer y la siguiente concurso para entregar uniformes se va a hacer rediseñando en base a lo que hemos recogido. Entonces, las encuestas son una herramienta clave, pero hay que convalidarlo directamente con los equipos de trabajo. Para eso también una buena iniciativa de SUNAT es la red de gestores de cambio. Son los mismos trabajadores que tienen sus, digamos, representantes que nos ayuden a difundir lo que se está haciendo en la institución, pero también a recoger las iniciativas, las necesidades de los trabajadores. Creo que es importante también la comunicación. Muchas veces hacemos grandes esfuerzos a través de nuestras áreas de clima laboral, pero no llega a los trabajadores por qué se está haciendo o el esfuerzo que se está haciendo para lograr esas mejoras en las remuneraciones, en los préstamos que se les da, por ejemplo, en el caso de SUNAT, a través del Fondo de Empleados. Y todo esto repercute, esa comunicación de que el trabajador sepa lo que está haciendo la institución, lo que están haciendo los líderes, que sepa que estamos escuchando también lo que necesitan, impacta definitivamente en nuestros resultados. En las aduanas facilitamos el comercio ilícito y controlamos lo ilícito. Esas son nuestras labores de las aduanas. Hay un contacto directo también con las personas y todo lo que sea en bienestar de los trabajadores va a beneficiar a la institución y al país, en el comercio, en la seguridad, en la facilitación de ello. Y también va a trasladarse en el trato al ciudadano, porque ese contacto directo en el control con una persona que está más satisfecha con su trabajo, lo que está haciendo, se va a trasladar también en un trato más justo. También va a impactar en la reducción de niveles de corrupción, porque si una persona tiene una mayor identidad y sentido de pertenencia y valora lo trascendental que es trabajar en aduanas, tiene menores niveles de corrupción. Entonces, todo lo que podamos invertir en el beneficio de los trabajadores va a repercutir en el país, va a repercutir en la institución, va a repercutir en las personas a quienes damos servicios y también en la salud personal de cada uno, pues las enfermedades se dan muchas veces por el nivel de estrés que se tiene. Cuando uno hace el trabajo con satisfacción, este nivel de estrés y de enfermedades también baja. Entonces es un círculo en el cual ganamos todos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marilu. Yeah, thanks also for making that happen. And yeah, we can see that SUNAT can have a lot of benefits from investing on people. I will move now to Ms. Chairman, again asking about this well-being, but I noticed that under your leadership, Uzbekistan Customs has recently invested in enhancing its psychological support to staff, as well as their financial well-being. Could you please share with all our participants here the driver of such initiatives, as well as their expected benefits for your organization?
Спасибо, господин Мухаммед. Все мы сами знаем, например, в семье самую большую инвестицию мы куда вкладываем? Конечно, своему ребенку, чтобы он в дальнейшем дал свой результат. И также, как руководитель, в первую очередь мы подумали, нужно вкладывать всю инвестицию, в основном инвестицию своим сотрудникам, а в основном обратить внимание молодым сотрудникам. И также на сегодняшний день у нас есть уже результаты. То, что мы идем по правильной дороге, нам доказывает, показывает наши результаты, которые сделали наши сотрудники. Ну, если честно сказать, со второй стороны, мы не стали изобретать велосипед, мы просто изучаем зарубежные опыты и внедряем его, и адаптируя под наши условия. Мы побывали в Объединенных Арабских Эмиратах, Корее, Турции, в Азербайджане и Грузии. Тщательно изучили лучшие методы и инструменты для дальнейшего внедрения в нашей системе. В целях координации работы в данной сфере мы создали отдельное подразделение, которое регулярно проводит анонимные опросы. До меня тоже говорили ораторы. Это когда сотрудник может спокойно сказать своему руководителю то, что он имеет свои проблемы, имеет свои предложения. И, исходя из этого, мы дальше прорабатываем все материально и практически. Так, психологические тесты среди сотрудников, а также оценку их настроения к работе. По итогам реализации концепции за короткий срок достигнуты следующие результаты. С вашего позволения, вкратце скажу некоторые факты. Значит, в 5 раз увеличилось количество сотрудников, имеющих международные сертификаты по владению иностранными языками. В 2 раза увеличилось количество сотрудников, получивших научную степень. На сегодняшний день их 33 сотрудника. Доля взысканных платежей увеличилась более чем в 4 раза. Стоимость изъятых товаров по фактам нарушения законодательства увеличилась в 7 раз. Сегодня 5 сотрудников проходят обучение в Японии, Великобритании и Корее. Более 20 сотрудников удостоены государственных наград. Таможенная служба признана передовой организацией по борьбе с коррупцией в этом году и имеющей лучшее IT-подразделение. В последующем мы продолжим работу по вовлечению персонала, созданию новых механизмов, поощрению и мотивации сотрудников. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thanks for all what you are doing for Uzbekistan Customs. And I'm sure that we'll be coming back to learn from your experience. Moving back now to Mr. Peter. Please, Mr. Peter, how did GTFP, the program that we have here in WCO, redesign its working modalities to meet the requirements of the new working model, especially the hybrid work, as well as staff expectations in relation to well-being?
Well, I guess one important lesson COVID taught all of us is the importance of resilience. And this applies to all levels, a country and institution, but also the individuals, as we have heard. And for an organization, resilience means to be able to perform also when facing unexpected situations such as a pandemic. And for this, it needs to be open to explore new ways of thinking and to work jointly with different stakeholders and with its employees. Because motivated people are the most central element to achieve an attitude that creates resilience. Translating this to our global trade facilitation program with the WCO, the impact of COVID-19 has provided us with important lessons. In order to meet the requirements of the pandemic working model, the program had to rethink the design and delivery methods of its capacity building activities. And it thus started using virtual tools and taking advantage of existing IT platforms. This allowed a much broader participation of stakeholders and secured the continuity of the previously agreed working plans in beneficiary countries. Changing to mostly virtual activities also highlighted the importance of staying in constant communication with beneficiaries and stakeholders despite the lack of physical meetings. I think this proved to be a very central element for continued success. But over time, it also became clear that there are also limits to virtual activities. Face-to-face communication remains essential for people and organizations to share information, to exchange ideas, to have an open dialogue and deepen engagement among stakeholders. And despite all the advantages of virtual interaction, which includes broader participation, this point I would like to excuse for not being able to participate physically with you. Well, communication and understanding still depend on an immersion and at the context that can very often not be captured through virtual platforms. We learned that the success of virtual activities very much depends on the specific context. And accordingly, our support should remain flexible to allow activities to be adapted to the particular circumstances and available resources in our partner countries. Also, remote working or home office, as we call it here in Switzerland, has many advantages and is appreciated by many employees. We have heard it from Mr. Tobias Settler from PwC. Once you have had this flexibility, you do not want to miss it anymore. But for some people, and especially managers, adapting to this new working environment can also create stress. It can create undesired fusion of work and private life. In order to continue working efficiently and creating value, organizations thus need to understand and support their employees' specific situations and provide health and mental support as well as technological tools. I think the examples from Peru and Uzbekistan have already provided very good ideas and examples how this can indeed be achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peters. And I would like to excuse to all our participants that for the sake of time and as we covered all the elements of this part, I will not open the question from the panel, but you will have the opportunity to ask your questions starting from the next panel. But allow me to thank a lot all our panelists for their insightful ideas and also for showing case that investing in people, it's always beneficial for both, for the individuals, but also for the organization. And we cannot do any change without having people together with technology, but always having people at the center. Thank you very much to all of you, and thanks for making this happen. Thanks, Heb. Thank you. I will now give the floor to my... We'll now move to panel 2, and I will kindly ask all panelists to join us, and also the moderator. Yeah, please, Richard, floor is yours.
Oui, bonjour à tous. C'est un plaisir d'être ici. Merci, Si Mohamed, de nous avoir invités pour ce panel. Je voudrais remercier le secrétariat de l'OMD pour aussi l'initiative d'avoir organisé cette conférence sur la gestion du capital humain qui, malgré tous les efforts de digitalisation, les hommes et les femmes de la douane restent au centre de la réforme douanière. Donc, merci encore pour cette initiative. Et j'ai l'honneur de modérer ce panel 2. Si vous me permettez, je vais basculer en anglais, étant donné que mes panélistes sont anglophones pour la plupart. So, good afternoon to all. Welcome to panel 2 on future work and workplace innovation for well-being in a digital era. So the COVID-19 presented really a unique opportunity to reimagine and rethink work arrangements and work design. It provided a unique platform for the largest global experiment to rethink how we work and when we work and actually who we work with. In short, the COVID-19 pandemic pushed organizations to not only enhance their agility, but also their resilience through new adaptive models, but also people-centric strategies. Top management and HR executives were asked to devise innovative answers to critical questions while balancing both strategic objectives and their employees' and stakeholders' safety and well-being. So where should work be undertaken? When should it be done? How should it be done? And who should undertake it? So in this respect, and we've heard this in the first panel, adopting technology and implementing new platforms, technology-driven platforms, have helped organizations and customs really to optimize their operational processes, but also it helped with workforce planning. So as we move forward with the implementation or the upgrade of systems such as enterprise resource planning to make new work arrangements more practical, more efficient, resilient, and scalable, we also found that we have to listen to our employees. We have to embed their well-being, their satisfaction, and their wants into our new work designs and arrangements. So it's my pleasure to welcome those eminent panelists to discuss how they moved into a new working arrangement, new working models in their administrations. So first of all, we have Mr. Martin Reuter, who is joining us online from German Customs, and he is the head of international affairs. Welcome, Mr. Reuter, to this panel. We have the Deputy Director General of the Customs General Administration of Mongolia, Mr. Enkenvat Gelegiamts. Excuse me if I butchered your name. I hope I didn't. Welcome to this panel. We have Ms. Leah Campbell, Director General, Workforce Planning, Policies and Programs Directorate from Canada Border Service Agency. And we also have Dr. Ibrahim Al-Khadja, Division Director of Human Capital and member of the Strategic Transformation Committee at Abu Dhabi Customs. So our first question goes to Germany. German Customs is committed to the effective and efficient service delivery to its stakeholders while ensuring the protection and expectations of its staff. Could you please describe how your administration has adapted its work processes and workplace design to meet your strategic objectives, including environmental ones, and the workforce needs? Mr. Reuter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for passing me the floor. And before I would like to begin, I would like to thank the WCO Secretariat, Mr. Dr. Kunio Mikuria, as well as all speakers for today for the discussion. Almost 415 participants online and much more on your site in Brussels. This shows how important the topic is for the way we will work from now on. Part of my work is international cooperation, and the WCO is a very important organization for my daily work. So it is my daily work right now here, and the conference here today shows impressively how hybrid working works and advantage it has. Unfortunately, my colleague, Ms. Voss, cannot attend, and so it is possible for me to attend the event hybrid at short notice. Indeed, adapting the work process and workplace designed to strategic objectives and the workforce's needs at the same time was and is a challenging task. By way of introducing, please allow me to explain that the German Customs Administration has already introduced remote work many years ago. This was tied to fixed days and conditioned that employees has to stick on a regular basis. However, the pandemic has shown that mobile working can ensure a balance between the fulfillment of strategic tasks and the workforce needed. Therefore, the German Customs Administration decided that mobile working should continue to be part of the everyday work lives of employees in the future. For strategic objectives, looking at the strategic objectives, the most important aspect is that employees are able to perform their task in mobile work to the same extent as in the office workplace. By producing the appropriate IT equipment and providing IT processes, the employees were put in the technical position to carry out their task outside of the provided workplaces. We are in the good situation that a lot of our employees had a laptop before the pandemic starts. And now on, we have nearly 100% of our employees in the situation using a laptop. And from now on, we start with a smartphone rollout. Effective performance of official duties can only be guaranteed with good technical procedures and work process. However, not every activity in customs world is suitable for mobile work. For example, employees in work areas where they carry out on the spot or physical inspections cannot work remotely. We try also for these colleagues to find an arrangement that there are changes in their daily works, that also these colleagues have the possibility for some days to work on a mobile way. Mobile way work, as well as new IT equipment and providing IT processes, do not only support the strategic task, they also help with meeting the needs of the workforce. At first, the needs of workers for health protection during the pandemic were considered. But in the long term, employees' satisfaction increased due to a variable work-life balance, as we heard in the panel one before. In order to offer employees existing work at home, even after the elimination of the pandemic regulation, new regulations on mobile work were applied at the beginning of this year in our authority. From now on, no special requirements are needed for mobile work. The supervisor arranged the mobile work individually and flexible with the employees. And this arrangement is on an informal base. If necessary, fixed remote work is still possible now on. Moving over to the environmental policy objectives, mobile working offers innovations, solutions for flexible room planning and for reducing in space requirements for our offices, as well as the lower consumption of space and thus lower energy consumption and less sealing for the floor surfaces. Furthermore, paper consumption has also been reduced by digitalization of our processes in many areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reuter. It's very interesting that not only you were able to resize your offices, but also facilitate remote working. Of course, provision of laptops and smartphones are a big element. What was really interesting is that the COVID-19 crisis has also helped you in a way to reshape your workforce, your work arrangements, to achieve your green customs agenda. And this is a very important lessons learned, I think, for many administrations. So thank you for sharing this. So to Mongolia, Deputy Director General, you have served on Mongolia's COVID-19 State Emergency Commission on Pandemic Relief. Based on your experience and as a member of this high-level national body, which key measures did your customs administration introduce as part of its new working model to ensure work efficiencies while ensuring staff well-being?
Very good afternoon. My warm greetings from Mongolia, dear Kunyamit Korea Secretary General and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to share all of you. We are celebrating the 110th anniversary of Mongolian customs. First of all, thank you very much for all organizers and WCO staffs. It's my great pleasure to participate in the WCO Human Capital Management Global Conference on behalf of Mongolian Customs. Of course, as Deputy Director General of Mongolian Customs, my people, the human resources, most important assets of this organization. We try to make decisions considering the interests of people first. Firstly, COVID-19 pandemic has led us change the working model. Like other organizations, we have made arrangements on the ways of work by online, at working place, or a combination. As an organization which is responsible for ensuring the sustainability and resilience of the trade of the movement of passengers and the means of transport crossing the border, 1/3 of the employees needed to work in the workplace. Secondly, during the pandemic, our organization took several measures to protect and support the physical and psychological health of the employees, and around 10% of the organization's budget was spent on this last 3 years. We were able to provide all the staff with infection protection equipment, disinfectants, immune support drugs, and vitamins. About 40% of all employees received physical treatment as a post-COVID vacation and sanitary. The pandemic has demonstrated the need for customs, other government agencies and trade to have collaboration in order to respond to and recover from unexpected risk events. We developed a guidance on managing risk and facilitating trade and COVID-19 pandemic, including checklists to support frontline staff. Mongolian government tried to prevent COVID-19 spread and implemented measures to supply chain continuity of international trade movement. Mongolia is landlocked, developing country and highly dependent on foreign trade, especially mining sector export, which account for almost a quarter of gross domestic product and 90% of exports. In addition, the neighboring countries are playing the main role for economic development. After the national precautions, a number of legal documents were adopted by the government of Mongolia. 1/3 of the legal documents are directly related to the international trade supply chain, namely strict border closures, a suspension of air passenger travel, enforced quarantine for arriving passengers, and restrictions on daily life kept a number of COVID-19 cases so low there has been no recorded transmission within the country, and all known cases have been imported from visitors or Mongolians returning from abroad, etc. Followed by those regulations, relevant authorities are needs to implement those legal documents. My main responsibility is the operative staff of the State Emergency Commission to support the supply chain continuity of the international trade movement. The beginning of the new assignments has faced a number of challenges, including coordination and collaboration among the trade stakeholders, as well as the relevant government authority. All of the trade-related measures implementation depends on the decision of National Emergency Management Agency during the COVID-19. Of course, it's big opportunity not only for me, but also for my administration. I've been working parallel work with Customs and COVID-19 State Emergency Commission on pandemic. Therefore, I started to explain to them about the border control environment. Besides this increasing efficiency of the cross-border passenger and trade movement. In the beginning of the pandemic, we faced shortages of staff. We focused how we can mitigate unexpected risks with limited resource mobilizations and introduced a number of new initiatives, including new working methodology for working environment. We started to assess a prioritized job place with new job profile. when I found that the biggest problem is resource mobilization. At the State Emergency Commission, we made new coordination policy and it's reduced time of border clearance. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, Deputy DG, for this very insightful intervention. So I think it's very powerful when a Deputy Director General says that the most valuable resource of his administration is its people. And there are two elements that I think we should bring forward. One is that despite the challenges of COVID-19, one of the key elements that was really heightened during the crisis was that the need for customs administration, despite the limitation of physical presence, to enhance collaboration with other border agencies to facilitate trade and the transit of passengers. So finding ways to communicate and collaborate better. And the second element, which is very innovative in Mongolia, was that we have a prioritized job environment with new job profiles. And this is something that really is wonderful to hear, Deputy DG, and I'm sure that all the members of the WCO as well as the Secretariat would like to see some of those job profiles, so do not hesitate to share them with Dr. Elhai when you have a chance. So thank you very much with this, for this experience sharing. So Ms. Campbell from Canada. CBSA has reported that it is in the process of developing a policy that may facilitate the transition from an office-based workplace, triggered during the pandemic response phase, to a long-term approach involving the implementation of a hybrid work model, HWM, as per CBSA's acronym. So could you please describe the main components of the strategy, as well as the challenges and benefits of its implementation?
So good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity today to discuss the Canada Border Services Agency's hybrid work model strategy, which is really part of our agency's broader future of work transformation plan. So just to contextualize our organization, we are an organization of approximately 15,000 employees with 6,500 uniformed personnel at approximately 1,200 points across Canada and 39 international locations. We administer 90 pieces of legislation, acts, or international agreements on behalf of many Government of Canada departments at 117 land border crossings, 13 international airports, and 3 international mail processing facilities. So now more than ever, our organization recognizes that the future of work is about leveraging the interconnections between people, technology, workspace, health and safety, and organizational policy. Our vision for our future of work is to develop and implement a flexible work environment that fosters an agile, inclusive, equipped, and resilient workforce that enables us to meet our operational needs and deliver excellent service to Canadians. Our approach to our new model blends the best elements of both in-person and remote work and will help us regain some of what we lost during the pandemic without those face-to-face interactions while maintaining the benefits of increased flexibility. So our journey in developing our hybrid work model began well over a year and a half ago. We have based it heavily on research, on partnerships and collaboration internally and across departments and central agencies, and on engagements with employees and managers at all levels within our organization. We have established governance and weekly oversight by the president of the CBSA, and we have begun implementation of our model with leadership across the organization, investing and implementing the established vision across all sectors. Our vision for our hybrid work model is to deliver quality service to Canadians by investing in our workforce and ensuring that they are empowered and equipped to do their best work wherever they work. It is supported by 5 key principles that we will ensure to deliver to our outcomes: service excellence, flexibility, career mobility, diversity and inclusion, and financial stewardship. Throughout the development and implementation, experts in various sectors, human resources, information technology, information management, real property, security, change management, culture, and communications regularly share information and collaborate on guidance, toolkits, and messages to managers and employees to ensure that we're all aligned and equipping our workforce with concrete information and guidance they need. The Government of Canada as a whole has not yet pronounced on a single model for all government departments, and instead has empowered individual departments and agencies to define their future of work. We are aligned with the overall Government of Canada direction from our Prime Minister and Clerk of the Privy Council, our legislation policies, but have adapted it to meet our specific mandate and reality. So the foundation of our model is established on job flexibility profiles, which were established for every single position within our organization. Using a standard questionnaire, each job within the agency was evaluated and assigned one of 4 job flexibility profiles, according to the nature of the work and the operational requirements of that position. The JFP represents the maximum degree of flexibility an employee occupying that particular position can be offered without compromising on operational needs and service levels to Canadians. The flexibility that is offered is specific to the work requirements, but also balanced with the expectations for efficiency, collaboration, service excellence, and value for money. Our job flexibility profiles are specific to a position and do not take into account the person who occupies that position. And so as a result of the assignment of the profile, it is agnostic to the needs of the individual circumstances of the incumbent. The approach ensures transparency and fairness across the entire organization. So our job flexibility and profiles include on-site only work, which requires full-time on-site presence and no telework is possible. Occasional telework, where it's possible 1 to 2 days per week, with office presence 3 to 4 days out of the week. Moderate telework, 3 days per week remotely, 2 days in the office, and mostly off-site, which would be sometimes either 1 day per week on-site presence or multiple times per month. Based on the evaluation of our jobs, about 49% of our jobs across the agency will remain on-site due to the operational requirements. Those jobs are mostly our frontline border services officers, intelligence officers, etc. 24% of our jobs will report to the workplace on average 2 to 4 days per week. And 27% of our agency jobs are off-site mostly, with 1 day per week in the office or several times per month for team collaboration, cohesion, well-being, culture, or purpose-based activities. We have not taken a one-size-fits-all approach to our hybrid work model. Flexible work is available to a large portion of our workforce, including in roles that are traditionally operational and frontline. Our future of work model will leverage the best of remote and on-site presence by finding the optimal balance between the two. When driving further into our plan, you will note that the majority of our headquarters positions or back office roles that support the front line fall mostly in the off-site category at 68% of our workforce who can benefit from working 4 to 5 days per week from home. 25% of them will be required to come into the office occasionally, and 8% are required on site full-time. And those roles are mostly in operational roles such as our targeting center, our international operations, our warrant response center, and our training college. 72% of our regional jobs, which would be the ones that are at our borders or are in our mail processing centers, are on-site only, obviously due to the nature of their position, but within that category, about 25% are afforded the possibility of flexibility. Flexible roles can be found, again, mostly in those administrative support areas, but they can be found in our trade and intelligence operations. Some of those roles include case enforcement officers, regional program officers, hearings officers, and intelligence officers. Where processing of files and research can be done through digital tools, officers may benefit from remote options that support administrative aspects of their role. Key success factors to implementing this model include leadership across the organization. So therefore, we've developed a number of online guides, toolkits, and checklists for them to communicate their expectations with employees and plan for a more regular and sustained in-office presence balanced with flexible remote work. Our focus has been on discussing how to evolve work in the office, using it as a tool for collaboration and engagement rather than a work location. We are focusing on enabling purpose-driven on-site activities to promote face-to-face interaction and dialogue between staff to enhance innovation and business outcomes. We began implementation in June of this summer, and have been gradually seeing employees back into the workplace. September saw a significant increase as people returned from holidays and back to school began. Some of our offices have begun implementing specific test models of hybrid as we continue our evolution. This includes fixed days versus flexible days in the office, with the goal of testing hypotheses related to productivity, employee engagement and well-being, and organizational culture. Adjustments to our physical workplace continue to be necessary to support our model into the future, with the objective of ensuring employees have space to collaborate, innovate, and the proper tools from a technology perspective to support their work. So some of the benefits and challenges we have seen across the implementation of this model include, by offering a flexible work environment, we are well positioned to respond to the changes in our workforce. We have the ability to attract and retain talented employees across our country, representative of the population they serve, fostering increased inclusion from a diversity and inclusion perspective, and contributing to economic growth in communities where certain jobs may not have previously been offered. For employees, the benefits are diverse. By welcoming our community on site a few days each week, we foster improved collaboration and organizational culture. The main benefit, obviously, in a better work-life balance for them. Flexibility improves the feeling of well-being, as we've heard. Some economies of scale are also possible with respect to office space and travel. The use of digital technology has had a positive impact in government greening goals and overall reduction in operational costs. Some of the barriers or risks that we have experienced as we continue to implement are visible across many sectors. They include the ability of us to accommodate and meet the personal preferences of our employees in the implementation of the model, which we see is leading to some attrition across sectors, particularly in roles that are specialized in nature or where job opportunities exist across the entire government portfolio. So we see that in HR, finance, IT, et cetera. We need to balance our operational requirements with the ability to offer purpose-based, meaningful on-site experience to make us stand out as an employer of choice. Defining what that looks like across the agency and being consistent has been a very big challenge for us. From a culture and change management perspective, there is increased risk in inconsistent messaging and application of flexibility across the organization. This has led to inconsistent implementation in some areas and has led to the perceived erosion of trust between management and their teams. Ensuring that there's a strong vision and sponsorship plan from the top through all leadership levels within the organization is critical to our success. We continue to work on change management and engagement with employees, focusing on areas where additional support is required. Finally, as the Government of Canada writ large has not pronounced on a model that is ingrained in our collective agreements, legislation, or policy, departments are left to navigate this new model absent a consistent policy framework across the entire government. This has led to movement of employees across organizations, and employees seeking more lucrative and flexible work offerings, which makes workforce planning a very significant challenge and risks the misalignment of departmental approaches with the future vision of the Government of Canada. So to mitigate that, we are working with other departments to leverage best practices and test out various hybrid models that will enable us to adapt and update our framework as more information becomes available. So just to close, by implementing our hybrid work model, we are able to maintain our position as an internationally recognized leading public service that supports the broader Government of Canada vision of having an agile, inclusive, and equipped workforce that delivers quality service to Canadians. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. I think it's a very comprehensive answer. And if we were to highlight some of the key elements, I think one is the methodology that you've been using related to job flexibility profiles and not being it a purely individual element, but also like actually looking at the job itself and looking at the, let's say, the flexibility profile based on your calculation. I think one key element also that came through is the change management and the importance of having an engaged leadership that is communicating clearly the same message across the board to ensure that your hybrid work model actually becomes an effective reality. So thank you. And for all our customs administrations here, I think it's important to note that some of the jobs are actually, you cannot do without physical presence. The operational presence is needed, especially for our security mission. And this is something that we should remind ourselves of. So while some of your employees may want to have offsite all the time, for the operational reality, we do need them to control the borders and to make sure that society and our environment is safe. So thank you, Leah. So to Abu Dhabi Customs, Dr. Ibrahim, pleasure to have you here. So the future of work will be increasingly hybrid, and technology is a key enabler to succeed in this transformation. Based on Abu Dhabi Customs experience, how can technology support leaders and managers with regards to workforce management, staff engagement, and communication, and enhanced performance in a hybrid work environment? Dr. Ibrahim.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our experience with everyone. And briefly, I will start in the beginning to explain about our strategy. In 2019, we started our transformation by setting the new vision to be a world-class customs, and then cascade down to our mission, core values, strategic objectives, and all the way down to the smart objective of the employees, to make sure we are connecting every single employee with the vision and make sure that everyone is supporting us toward our new vision. And then we set a roadmap with 64 strategic projects. Those 64 strategic projects, we divide them by 6 pillars. And one of the biggest pillars is the human capital pillar, where we will transform first the human capital. As human capital, they are the biggest asset we have. Always, majority of organization, more than 80%, they spend on manpower. And that's why it's the biggest asset we have. When we started human capital digital transformation in 2019, before COVID, we always focus on 4 elements to do any digital transformation. First, we focus on the strategy to make sure that our strategy is aligned with the future, is aligned with our organization strategy, and changing people's mindset. So we focus on the strategy and mindset by developing a new strategy to be aligned with the future and be aligned with the digital transformation that we want to do. Second element, we always focus on people, our customers and employees, the biggest asset. We make sure we have a strategy for our people. We know what they need. We know what type of user-friendly system, whatever they want to succeed in our transformation, and put a change management approach to make sure that we are cascading down everything and we have a specific strategy for our people. Third, we focus on our processes to make sure that our processes are aligned with the future. We are re-engineering all our processes. We re-engineered 1,161 processes and make sure that we embed best practices to be aligned with the future. Last, and maybe 10% only of the focus, is the technologies. Digital transformation is not technology. We will make sure to search for the technology that will cover the need of our strategy and people and processes. When we find the system or the technology that will cover all our needs, that's the right system. And make sure that the system is aligned with the future, system to be embedded with artificial intelligence, system to be embedded with machine learning, IoT, blockchain, all the latest technologies, and it's supposed to be mainly on cloud. We will talk about it later. So we will just have a better continuous improvement and finding the system that will cover all our needs. Maybe I'm advisor in almost 30 entities, and one of the mistakes that ID organizations do, they search for they think digital transformation is a technology. They search for a technology, and then when they adopt that technology before knowing people's need and the process need and the strategy, they find out that the system will not cover what they want. And they reach to a level that the system will cover 20%, and they will try to tweak the organization on that system. And that's a big failure, and this is one of the most common errors that I found. In human capital, some of the projects that I can share, we implemented digital assistant, we implemented RPAs, robot process automation, to almost have every single day-to-day transaction being done by robotic, because robotic will not have error. You never saw that calculator 1 + 1 = 5. It's either shut down or it will be correctly 100% because based on the logics and algorithm. We implemented mobile app. We have IQ bots, cloud applications. We will talk about it later. It's very important. Attendance based on geofencing to make sure we don't want hardware anymore. Everything is software. In training, we used hologram for training. So the training, it will be different than the classical way of training. We started to think how to program the mind, program the subconscious mind. Instead of having training classes, 8-hour given courses, we are doing our training through hologram. We are doing our training through augmented reality, through virtual reality, to have more visualization in a practical way of the mind, and having more programming the mind that your subconscious mind will look like it's a visualization. But actually you are using simulator and virtual reality. And at the same time, we are working on metaverse to make sure we are going toward the future more and more and align ourselves with what's coming in the way. COVID for us was a very good scenario because before COVID, we started our transformation in 2019. And actually, we've been ready for COVID before COVID. That's why we always say, align yourself with the future. We started implementing hybrid before COVID, and I wanted to implement 100% remote, but we couldn't. There was some resistance. When COVID came, that was a good opportunity to go live and close all the offices, to have a proof of concept that this is a successful story. And when we implemented hybrid work and sometimes 100% remotely, we found there is an increase in productivity. And then we started to measure productivity based on the hybrid that we work by having systems that will calculate every single thing that employees do. From Bobby, from Yas, how many minutes they are doing the inspection, how many emails they sent, how many minutes they did team, everything. And at the end, you will have a percentage of productivity that will say your remote productivity is 60%, 70%, or 100%, some of them more than 100%. So we will put for them a schedule that you will be 100% remotely in case your productivity is more. And some of them we will have maybe 2 days per week they will have at work and 3 days remotely. And some of them that we saw that they have a 10% productivity remotely. Definitely we have to bring them at work. So everyone is responsible of having his schedule. And then based on that, we put different scenarios to make sure the output of what we had benefits the employee and benefits the organization at the same time. So all those projects, when we did the transformation, we made people's life easy. That's the only thing we can say. We used user-friendly system. No one is teaching any one of us in social media. Applications, you don't need training. It's a self-learning. When application need training, that's an old school. It's not aligned with what we want to go. Yesterday or today, we are implementing hybrid of work. What we are working now to be aligned with the future, our vision in 5 years to close our offices, because hybrid of work will be different. We will have remote work, we will have metaverse, and we will have different type of technology. For example, some of the workers, we will have one area that is flexible to be at work. Our meetings will be through metaverse. Our other type of meetings will be through hologram. So aligning ourselves with the future from now, it will avoid us by facing another scenario that may take us out of business, for example, like COVID. Lots of organizations went out of business. Why? They were not ready. And when COVID came, they are behind the market. When they are behind the market, they are out of business. And that's why it's very important from now to always align ourselves with the future, that in case there is another scenario or situation will come, we are ready. And automatically when that scenario will come, we just need to tweak ourselves. I have all the tools and I have all the latest technology. When something will come, I just need to re-engineer myself. And we have to focus on the future generation. The new generation is different than our generation and is different than the previous generation. When we align ourselves with the future, our kids, you will find they are all the time in gamification. In one of my summits, it was in Digital Transformation Summit, they asked me, they are like, did you play virtual reality? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's the maximum? I'm like, 1 hour. He's like, did you get dizzy? I'm like, yes, I got dizzy. It's very difficult. And then he's like, see, you can't implement metaverse. I'm like, okay, I will ask you another question. Do you have kids? He's like, yeah, I have kids. How many hours per day they are playing virtual reality? He's like, more than 12 hours. I'm like, that's it. We need to adapt. We need to align ourselves, and we need to build the future for the future generation. not for us only. In the beginning, when I drove Tesla, it was very complex because I'm getting dizzy. It's electric, it's weird. After 1 month, 2 months, I'm aligned. Now when I drive petrol, I feel weird. I'm getting used to the future. So that's why it's very important. Urgency of change is a key. We need to change today before tomorrow. The more we are late, the more we are behind the market. The more we go behind the market, we will reach to a scenario that we can't catch up. And that's why I don't want to take long. This is a brief little bit about Abu Dhabi Customs transformation, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for also prompting us to prepare ourselves for the future. I think it's important to note that the good practices and the innovative solutions that Abu Dhabi Customs is implementing, looking into future and making sure that we follow a step-by-step approach by looking at processes, people, and then developing or adapting a technology that is adapted to our needs, to the needs of the organization, to the needs of the customers, and to the need of our staff. As said by Dr. Ibrahim, often we buy a solution off the shelf, and then we force our organizations, our employees, and our customers to actually adapt something that doesn't reflect our actual priority needs. So thank you for all these lessons learned, and congratulations on all the good work so far. So I'll kindly ask all my panelists to be short in their answers because we are slightly over time, so please stick to the 5 minutes allocated time in your answers. So Leah, back to you. As mentioned in the introduction, technology is, of course, a key driver to the way we're going to design our working environment. But it is important to emphasize that although work and workplace design, coupled with modern technology, offers many opportunities, it's also carrying a lot of threats, risks, and challenges. And information security is a vital aspect of customs works. And one of the challenges lay in ensuring that remote working does not breach the administration's security protocols. So please describe how your organization secures record management while enhancing the possibilities for remote working.
Thank you. So while COVID did accelerate part of our digital workspace and digital process journey, we were modernizing a lot of processes before the pandemic happened, including the use of customs electronic declaration systems that are certified to access digital information through computer connected to VPN. We have decreased the use of carbon copy and manually processed documentation, increased the use of secure systems to capture and contain our information, and we did put in place in 2014 an electronic management system, which is essentially our internal record management system that is available to all employees, whether they're working on-site or remotely, and enables the digital sharing of information. So in response to COVID-19, though, CBSA did have to pivot and office-based workers began working from home. So to ensure ongoing secure management of records and information, we did communicate proactively with employees and had access to best practices in order to clarify the responsibilities for keeping information secure. We posted bulletins and information security awareness publications to all of our staff. Phishing campaigns were held to increase employee awareness and sensitivity to cyber risks. We continued to push the use of our electronic records management system, which did continue to grow operationally as workers began leveraging that tool as opposed to paper-based filing systems and information libraries. Heavily used physical information was digitized, so a lot of our case information, as an example, and imported into that records management system. HR and other processes were modernized to eliminate the need for paper and expand the information to remote workers across the agency, which actually allowed us to consider national distribution of workloads instead of regionalized attributes. We introduced Microsoft Teams with video in 2020, which resulted in screen sharing of digital information in meetings and eliminated the need for paper printed copies. And we also introduced electronic signatures in the fall of 2020, which eliminates now the requirement for physical signatures on any documentation at the agency. In our frontline operations, we did see a pivot to remote work where it was feasible. And we have tried to continue this as much as possible in a post-pandemic state. So to continue to facilitate continued service for Canadians, in summer 2020, our immigration hearings officers began conducting and attending remote immigration hearings using Microsoft Teams, and have now been providing evidence on behalf of the Crown to some of our tribunal hearings electronically, which has now become the norm and has eliminated the need for them to travel and move physical files to court. In winter 2021, documents required for litigation and court cases are now being shared digitally through using a secure SharePoint corridor, and we will continue to see that trend in a post-pandemic state. So moving forward, our digital workplace initiative is closely linked to our hybrid work model, which will enable the agency to fully leverage the benefits of a distributed national workforce while gaining efficiencies in our operations. So specifically, some of the initiatives that are in flight as part of our framework include a pilot work to create a digital port of entry, which will include digitalization of processes for efficiencies and the elimination of paper. So as an example, the digital long room initiative, facilitate and sharing of work and collaboration between ports of entry, which enables our frontline officers to gain access to expertise across the country and allow for the mobility of our operations for remote work as required. Other initiatives include the increased use of VPN for all locations across the agency. So even clients can now digitally transmit information to CBSA offers. Digital file transfers to courts, prosecutors, and other trusted stakeholder, enhanced MS Teams functions for collaboration with internally and with other government departments, and increased training to support clients and employees. So we will eventually see paper production being eliminated, our hope is, and all of our records will be digitally enabled and translated. To ensure the success, we have to ensure that we have the right telework security directive in place. And so as part of our hybrid work model, all employees who are subject to a level of flexibility and remote work are required to sign a telework agreement that includes an acceptable use policy acknowledgement related to the handling of protected or secure and sensitive information, as well as the handling of CBSA assets outside of designated work locations.
Thank you, Leah. I think again, when you're looking at securing your IT systems, the importance of making sure that your employees know about the protocols and that they know how to use those new secure systems. So leveraging on technology is important, but making sure that our staff and our customers know how to use it securely is equally important. Thank you, Leah. So, Dr. Ibrahim, as indicated by Dave Ulrich, HR must give value or give notice. So HR must not only give value to the organization as a whole, but also to the individual employees. Leveraging on the potentialities of the newest technologies, organizations such as yours have taken the step to establish a cloud-based human capital management solution. Could you please quickly describe your solution and its benefits for the organization, but also for the employee to have a complete online one-stop shop? And how did the HR officers and employees adapt to this solution?
One of the projects is Oracle HCM Cloud that we implemented in HR and Abu Dhabi Customs. And we explained previously the importance of employee experience. Employee experience and a user-friendly system is very important. As we said, social media, no one is teaching us, and we need something very simple for the employees to focus on and get all his services. It's the same concept of single window. When you have one system, is better than having 10 systems for your training, for your performance, for your activity, for your salary certificate. So why we went to this cloud application model? Cloud application, I always explain it, use the example of Tesla or iPhone. You buy a car or a phone that you are happy with, and you like that phone. From time to time, you will receive an update. When you will do update, the processes will be re-engineered, and you will be more impressed or more happy with that product. So it's a product that you like and will keep developing itself by having a continuous improvement, sustaining the continuous improvement. Cloud application is the same concept. If we have 43,000 entities by today on cloud, they could do 6S, Six Sigma on the activities of HR, that having a standardization of that process around the world on 43,000 entities. Every 5 entities complain on one process. That process will go to Oracle, for example. They will do re-engineering, and then everything will come to you. So us as an expert in HR, usually we go yearly and do market study, benchmark, look for best practices, re-engineer our processes. After re-engineering our processes, we have to program our systems, and then we have to train our employees. It's a very long cycle to do it yearly. By today, we don't do anything. We are just waiting for the update every 3 months. That update will come to us, and best practice will come to me without searching for best practice. Employees, I don't give them training. I'm like, if you are a recruitment, go to your recruitment application, just look at the application and try to understand everything in it. When that person will understand everything in his application, he will be aligned with best practices. So best practice will come to you instead of you searching for it. And one of the reasons, after looking at our people strategy and processes, we've been searching for one system that will cover all our needs instead of having a system that will cover 20 or 30%. We found that there is 15 applications in this cloud application. The 15 application will cover more than my processes. If I have 63 processes by today, the system will cover 90 processes. So it's covering more than my need, and it's covering some of the future things that I need to adapt. And that's the right system. We implemented the system in a state of having resistance of change because it's Vuegen and it's user-friendly. Within 2 weeks, we said we had 1,114 users within 2 weeks without any training. And HR employees' life become easy. Why it become easy? Because previously, we had employees in 16 locations that I had 97 HR employees. There is no standardization. There is no fixed time. Time per process, when I looked at it, some locations, they have 1 year, 6 months, they have 1 month, and the time average was around 336 hours. By today, because we have centralized system, one of the applications, for example, is Help Desk. I could reduce the number from 97 to 31, and the time per ticket is 42 hours. The KPI is 48 hours, because I have a good system, and the system can cover everything. It will give me turnaround time. It will give me satisfaction per ticket, and I can centralize all HR in one location instead of 16 locations. And centralization is something very important, but you're supposed to have a very strong centralization team. And that's where, when we look at those type of solutions to make HR employees' life easy and our employees' life easy, that everyone have every single service in his mobile, no one need for a PC. As we said, we are going to buy mobiles, and everyone has a smartphone. They do attendance from their smartphone, they do their services from a smartphone, and everything will come to them. I always had one direction from my boss. He always tell me, do one thing. The only thing I need from you as an HR director, I just need you to give the employee everything he wants before he asks. If you could do that, you succeed. And by today, even promotions, the last 2 years promotion, everyone got promotion without knowing that they will get promotion. They received 400 promotion this year and 400 promotion last year, and bonus this year without they know. I'm asking the line managers, do you know how many of your employees got promotion? He's like, I don't know. Like, that's good. Now your file is talking. Every single employee, they are getting all their services while they are sitting in their desk. If they ask, I have a problem in the process and I have to fix something. And that's where using solutions, maybe we had a reduction in manpower, for example, HR employee from 97 to 31. It's not bad, because we will eliminate 105,000 jobs, but we will open 120,000 jobs. There are more jobs that we need human brain to use in. We need human brain and innovation. We need human brain and creativity. We don't want human brain in day-to-day transaction and doing 1 + 1 = 2. Definitely when there is human interference in day-to-day transaction, we have minimum 5% human error. So that's why we are using robotic for day-to-day transaction, and we are transferring everything for innovation. What is innovation? In a very simple language, innovation is implementation of ideas. From where ideas come? Innovative thinking. So let's work on innovative thinking and focus on where we need to use and utilize human minds, more than putting our human minds and our people that are the biggest asset to work in day-to-day transaction and do mistakes. And thank you, I don't want to take long.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. I think that you've said there are many job openings coming up in Abu Dhabi Customs. I'm afraid you'll see many applications.
Definitely.
Expecting bonuses and promotions without knowing it. So thank you for the invitation. And again, we quoted David Ulrich about HR and the need to give value to the organization and really adopting this strategic role and change agent role within the administration. And Abu Dhabi Customs is lucky to have you, Dr. Ibrahim. So congratulations for all the good work. So back to our colleagues in Germany, Mr. Reuter. So German customs have reported that the creation of more flexible working models increases the personal responsibility of individual employees, work areas, and managers. So could you please share with us the impact of these new working models on employee collaboration and engagement? And how does your organization actually measure staff performance with these new flexible working models? Thank you, Mr. Reuter.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm very happy to say that cooperation between employees as well as between employees and supervisors runs very smoothly. But that has an let's say an important reason in our situation, because we are not only customs family and international, we are also in customs family in our own administration. That means we know each other, and that was very helpful if we come in the pandemic situation and has to go to a more and very hard and very short term to come to these remote work for everyone. Nevertheless, if we would like to start these type of daily work method, we have to find some basic rules for each other. That means that employees have to come or to fix work between 9 and 3. That means that they are available by email, phone, as well as video conferencing tools, so they have internet connection. And as my colleague from Canada also said, data protection and data security must not be ignored in a world of mobile work. All employees are aware about the regulation in our office, and we find IT solutions that we can work from remote with these tasks. But and this is something also the colleagues from Canada explained in the previous part. You have to find the right work for mobile work, and not any work is possible in remote working areas. So customs administration had the option of distance works for many years ago, as I told you, and until now certain requirements has to be met for this. So we have the situation that we can jump into the pandemic situation very quickly, as I explained in the session before, and we now have the circumstance that a number of employees can work on a mobile basis, and this has increased satisfaction. Mobile working, such as other modern work models, have a number of positive effects, especially for parents, which explicit means not only women but also as men. The German Customs Authority sees a further improvement in the compatibility of work and family. There's also a further improvement in inclusion, as well as increase in the attractiveness of the employer to be a customs administration employee. In my administration, as shown in other studies, we have been able to determine that the number of sick days has decreased. This could be by the part that the new flexibility in the choice of work location also seems to be a reason for this. There is at the moment we have some audit teams and studies in our administration if and how mobile work in such an increasing volume has influence of our daily work. And I'm very happy to say that for the moment, the results should be that quantity and quality of tasks are not less than in a working situation in the office. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that we stop now and say, okay, we are fine with that. We try to be more effective in remote training situation, but this is also something we have to fulfill our task, because if we would like to have new colleagues in this situation, we also have to have a look how we can train them remotely, and that is something we are work very hard. We have to find lessons how the management area can work with employees in remote situation, how you can handle, how you can supervise, as well as how you can check that the work is done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reuter, and for highlighting also the role of managers in this new environment of managing the teams remotely, and how the customs administrations actually need to prepare their managers for this new type of management. So thank you very much, Mr. Reuter. Vielen Dank. Deputy DG, Mongolia. The implementation of the new work model requires the buy-in of management, staff, as well as labor union representatives. So in your role as Deputy DG, how did you conduct the consultative process, and which change management activities have you identified to ensure the sustainability of the new working model?
Okay, thank you, Moderator. The Customs General Administration of Mongolia is a government implementing agency and working under the Ministry of Finance. We don't have a labor union representatives to civil service law of Mongolia. All of the staff-related responsibilities are performed by the Public Administration and Strategic Department and the Human Resource Division, Mongolian Customs General Administration according. As my role as Deputy Director General of Mongolian Customs, I'm responsible for the contact point of all pandemic-related issues. As mentioned above, customs staff increased by 500 quarantine officers since quarantine control merged with customs control from the beginning of this year. Organizational structure, especially customs controls at the border, totally has been changed by new responsibilities. This year, new job profiles were born from the current organizational structure. Thus, all of the certificates and permissions which are issued by customs, we fully introduce the 24/7 responding process. It not only saved time for both traders and customs, but also a great opportunity for enhancing customs business partnership. The Mongolian customs is a move from current state through the transition state and to a future state. The transmission state involves change management, both personal and organizational transitions. Beginning of the new normal working environment, we face the biggest challenge from personal transmission. Mongolian customs established a number of working groups for supporting the effective and efficient implementation of change management. One of the biggest lessons learned from the current states, beginning of the pandemic, is a methodology of mitigating the risk of staff. We agreed for introducing a new working module to address the emotions which are responding from staff. It included focus meetings and various resource mobilization tools. Beginning of implementing the new module, we still missed full performance. Therefore, introduced a digital monitoring mechanism. I would like to highlight dedicated COVID-19 page in the WCO homepage, which was very useful for us managing the work. It's a very good opportunity to learn lessons, not only for my administration, but also many other member administrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy DG. And again, the importance of undertaking change management activities as you are embedding a new working arrangements and new working model. So I think, unfortunately, we don't have much time for questions. So I'm going to move forward with concluding this panel, if this is okay with the Secretariat. So I think what we've learned during this panel is that while we're leveraging on digital technologies and transformation to move into this new working environment with remote working, hybrid working, teleworking, however you want to call it, it's important that we don't lose focus on our people, that your new work design needs to embed not only the new technologies, but also the wishes, the wants, and the aspiration of your staff. So as you're moving forward in implementing your new working model, make sure you consult your staff, but you also consult your partners, other border agencies, but also your customers, so your taxpayers and the private sector, as this will ensure the successful transition towards the new working model. So, Dr. El-Hai, Dr. Tang, thank you very much for the opportunity to moderate this panel. It's been a privilege and an honor. And thank you to all my panelists for their great contribution. And I'm sure that the WCO Secretariat will shortly prepare the report highlighting all the case stories shared. So congratulations to all the panels. Thank you very much.
While we switch panels, I would like to test Director General from Mali. Could you say something first, please? At the same time, CG Customs from Nigeria.
Bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, le Mali. Bonjour. Je vous entends.
Si vous m'entendez, j'aimerais avoir le retour.
Tout à fait, Mali.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Nigeria. I can see you, I can hear you. Monsieur du Mali, je vous vois, je vous entends.
Colleagues. Thank you again for the moderator and panelists for the panel 2. Mindful of time, I would like to start our new session, panel 3. I would like to first appreciate to the WCO Secretariat to invite me to moderate this important session. This is a great privilege for me. I'm Yuri Yanai from Japan, Customs Attaché based here, and I happen to be the chairperson of the Association of Customs Representatives in Brussels as well. So it is my great honor to moderate this important discussion on behalf of Japan Customs and on behalf of Attaché colleagues. So please let me introduce the overview of this panel 3. Building staff and organizational resilience. So the current pandemic situation caused by COVID-19 has significantly disrupted the organizational and working modalities of customs administrations. Consequently, they need to become more adaptive and resilient to not only survive, but thrive. Therefore, customs resilience is required to respond to disruptions, as well as positively adjusting their operating model in the face of challenging conditions, leveraging opportunities, and delivering sustainable performance improvement. In addition, the current health pandemic clearly showed that the organizational resilience is dependent on staff resilience and staff well-being. They are the main contributors in the continuity and recovery processes, and their welfare is critical. The crisis has put an emphasis on the fact that well-being at the workplace is extremely important, and more customs administrations have begun to recognize and appreciate the link between happy, safe, and healthy staff and organizational performance and resilience. Organizational resilience is determined by how quickly the organization can return to its previous position after the crisis, at what cost it can be done, and also by how it can use the new opportunities that have arisen for its development. To shed the light on this important topic, I'm delighted to welcome eminent panelists whom I thank very much for their participation to this important event, despite the very busy schedule and the distance. Mr. Hamid Ibrahim Ali, Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service and Vice Chair of the WCO West and Central Africa region. Monsieur Diagiri Diakité, Directeur de renseignement et lutte contre la fraude des douanes de Mali. Mr. Tofail Ahmed, Joint Commissioner of Customs, and Mr. Nipun Chakma, Deputy Commissioner, Bangladesh Customs. Mr. Mikhail Emery, Director, Department of Human Resources, International Organization for Migration, Geneva, Switzerland. So without further ado, I'd like to start asking questions to the wonderful panelists. But please let me kindly remind our panelists to respect your time limitation, as we are already behind schedule, and yet we would like to listen to your answers as much as possible. Thank you. So, to Mr. Hamid Ibrahim Ali, Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service. So, based on Nigeria Customs Service's experience in coping with and responding to the complexity, volatility, and uncertainty of its current business environment, what are the key elements that you have identified to further build NCS organizational resilience? So, Comptroller General, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. First and foremost, let me thank the WCO for organizing this very auspicious meeting, and thank them for inviting us to share our experiences with other people and other administrations of customs globally. Your question is key to what we have done, and I will address it as such. Organizations the world over realize, of course, in all their day-to-day affairs that crisis situation may emerge at any given time. And organizations such as the Customs Services, with what we do and managing our borders, we must be mindful of the fact that we are prone to crisis, either border management crisis or internal crisis, and therefore, at any given time, the services must be ready to learn, to adapt, resist, and face the difficult situation. Therefore, organizations must adapt and demonstrate their resilience in an environment of crisis. Prior to the advent of pandemic, the COVID-19, NCS has been reviewing its policies and strategies to suit the dynamic situation in the organization's management. The need for speedy clearance saw the organization modernization and automating its process and developing a platform through which other agencies interface. This platform has encouraged mutual understanding of the roles of each agency and underscores the complementary roles we have to play for the security of our country. All this developmental agenda set the pace for us to follow when the crisis did emerge. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, insurgency and terrorism that we face within our borders, these activities, as mentioned, significantly disrupted organizational ethics, norms, modalities of customs administration in a nutshell. Restriction of movement, minimizing workforce, trade restriction, as well as 0% duty on pandemic imported items had an adverse effect on our overall performance. A lot of adjustment had to be made from personnel and organizational structure in order to cope with the realities we are suddenly faced with. Some key elements that helped the NCS to remain afloat and maintained its relevance is in the face of the pandemic, given the customs operation are one of the essential services as categorized in the social sphere. This gives us an unlimited and unrestricted access. Some of these key elements are as follows. One, strategic deployment of personnel. In line with the advisory from the WHO, and federal government of Nigeria through the National Center for Disease Control to maintain physical and social distancing, there was a reduction in the number of personnel on duty per time in order to minimize physical contact. Two, changes in training strategy and militarization of officers. Personnel were trained on safety precautions, equipping them with the necessary skills, techniques to tackle the current insecurity and insurgency. In our case, the Nigerian Customs Service is a paramilitary organization, and therefore we are allowed to carry arms in managing our borders. So we perform the creditable, the responsibility of making sure that we protect our borders. Three, development of organizational structure. Here we look at strategies that build trust in the system and boost the morale of personnel through A, personnel-oriented strategies, such as increase in staff remuneration. Two, housing policy, insurance of our personnel, group insurance and group life insurance, and also accident insurance. System-oriented strategies such as promotion of officers as at when due, improve staff rotation policy, that's redeployment. We increase the frequency of moving officers from one place to the other in order to minimize their anxiety. And then three, reward and commendation schemes that we evolved. In addition to what we were doing before, we now enhance that in order to encourage officers to stay fast and do what their responsibilities are. And then discipline and sanction regime. We try to quicken the dispensation of disciplinary process in order to ensure that those who are to be punished are punished, and those who have not committed an offense are let go, and then let them go and perform their responsibilities. As mentioned in the introductory part of my intervention, other security agencies in the country have their specific roles to play in the overall fight against insurgency and terrorism. Working under a single platform of Joint Intelligence Board, exchange of intelligence and best practices on human resource management, and also supports our goals. Officers of these agencies enjoy similar benefits that gives the sense of equality in the operational theater. The overall success in our organizational resilience hinges on the courage and determination of workforce. The human capital played a great role in believing in the system and standing a critical moment in defense of our fatherland. All these measures mentioned above help in building the NCS organizational resilience and re-engineering our own workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Controller General, for your complete measures taken by your administrations. It was really inspiring for the other administrations with similar structures. So, moving on to the second question. La deuxième question, c'est à la douane de Mali. L'administration des douanes de Mali a évolué ces dernières années dans un contexte politique, économique, sécuritaire, sanitaire, social très turbulent et en mouvance. Malgré un tel contexte, la douane malienne a assuré la continuité des services et a pu répondre aux attentes du gouvernement, des parties prenantes et du personnel. Pouvez-vous nous décrire les principaux déterminants de votre stratégie pour rendre votre organisation résiliente? Monsieur Diakité, vous avez la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Madame la modératrice. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, le Mali, pas très clairement, mais veuillez donc parler lentement, s'il vous plaît.
Madame la modératrice, et de m'avoir permis de parler au nom du directeur général des douanes du Mali, qui a eu un empêchement majeur de dernière minute. Monsieur aussi vient de me présenter, et vous avez Gageli Diakité, directeur du renseignement et de la lutte contre la fraude à la Direction générale des douanes du Mali. Permettez-moi aussi de remercier l'Organisation mondiale des douanes, l'OMD, et ses partenaires pour cette opportunité salutaire offerte à nous de parler à la troisième table ronde. Effectivement, l'administration des douanes du Mali, depuis une décennie, évolue avec des crises multidimensionnelles. Cela nécessite bien une organisation avec des bonnes pratiques pour une administration résiliente et pour pouvoir assurer la continuité du service.
Je suis désolé, le Mali, la qualité sonore ne permet pas l'interprétation.
Ok, je peux continuer?
L'intervention ne sera pas interprétée, donc j'en relaye aux organisateurs de la réunion.
Okay, so for now, I'd like to first move on to the Bangladesh while waiting for Mali to fix the connection. So to Mr. Tafail Ahmed and to Mr. Nipun Chakma, the latest series of crises has demonstrated that organizational resilience can be achieved through robust and comprehensive health and wellness programs, sound business continuity plans, and increased use of digital technologies. The pandemic has in many ways been a catalyst to fast-tracking digitalization efforts. What actions were taken by Bangladesh Customs to strengthen resilience through digital technologies? Also, it is really important that learning from experience is crucial. So what were your most important lessons learned when building the resilience of your organization during this pandemic? Thank you.
So thank you. This is Tafail Ahmed. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Bangladesh Customs, please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bangladesh Customs, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So the first question regarding Bangladesh Customs, I will answer the first question, and the second part will be answered by my colleague Nipun Chakma. Before we start answering, I would like to thank the moderator. I'd also like to thank WCO for giving me the opportunity to speak before all the distinguished panelists and different participants around the world who are present physically and who are also present online. This is an absolute honor to speak before you. The initiatives Bangladesh took during customs period, I will focus on 4 major areas. At first, I will start with the cross-border movement of relief and essential supplies. Because during COVID, when COVID started, the major trade was movement of relief and essential supplies for us. And when we were under COVID period, we started the online correspondence. Most of the time, our correspondence where hard copy correspondence or where paper was associated, but we thought that we will introduce the digital system, and through those digital system, the correspondence will be through mail or in WhatsApp or whatever where digital technology can be used, which will reduce the human interaction. The second part, Port Authority and other government agencies are closely related with the release of goods from the ports. So what we did through our online mechanism with the Port Authority and other government agencies, we had mechanisms so that the intergovernmental communications can be done, or the interagencies communications can be done easily using the modern technologies. We had the meetings through Zoom, we had the calls through WhatsApp or other procedures, but we tried to avoid those physical contacts as much as possible. We also introduced that the movement of relief and essential supplies are crucial during that period. So the clearance of relief consignments and other vaccines, eliminating physical examination and introducing special PCAs, because in normal cases, maybe PCA is not used that much in our country, but we thought that during COVID, we can introduce the PCA following the WCO guidelines of PCA. We also tried to release our goods as easily as possible. We also introduced the simplified declaration procedure for medical equipment or vaccines, and we also introduced the tariff relief for those things, so that all those relief goods and essential supplies can be easily released from the port, and the people can have the support during the COVID period. The second thing I will describe is economy and sustaining supply chain continuity, because it is important. Developing country like ours, during COVID, the developed countries has a benefit that when they face a crisis, they have enough money and they can support that crisis. But in our country, if we have to support additional money, we have to continue the economy going on, and we also have to sustain our supply chain continuity. And to continue that, we introduced actually tax relief measures for essential goods and protecting materials for COVID-19, because we actually didn't know, nowhere in the world anyone know what will happen with the COVID. So we actually focused on that, how the tax relief associated with the COVID-19 materials can be given. And we also introduced facilitated measures for different certification processes necessary for release of goods, like country of origin or IPO certificates. And we also introduced waiving penalty for non-tax and non-regulatory compliances. The third thing I would like to focus is protecting staff, COVID affected people, but we customs people, our stakeholders, and everyone we work with and we work for are people. So I will divide this protecting staff and protecting people in two different parts for the COVID. The actions taken were actually in preventive measures. We took some preventive measures and we took some remedial measures. Preventive measures include instructions to follow the COVID-19. Because COVID-19 was completely new all around the world, we didn't have enough information. So we made it sure that using the digital technology, the last person among us could know what should you do when you are about COVID. The distribution of masks, PPEs, and hand gloves and hand sanitizers and other things necessary to prevent COVID was done centrally. And we had a central special committee who actually supported us, and where we had a medical team for our staff so that they can get immediate medical attention. We also had introduction of work from home, which has actually been introduced all over the world. We had rotation of officers. We had awareness building through online meetings, because at the same time, we had to reduce the officers and we had to make it sure that the relief goods and all the necessary things are also in the supply chain. So we had to train them how to face the COVID period and how to continue their jobs. So awareness building was very important, and we took help from other organizations regarding it, and online connectivity among all intra-governmental offices and officials, so that wherever the information was necessary. We didn't have to look it in difficult ways. Online platforms were there to support. These were the preventive measures we did during our COVID period to protect our staffs. And there were some remedial measures. The remedial measures included that when someone was affected by COVID, what did we do? We had an online database for all officers who were COVID-19 positive. So the first thing we did was that no staff in our Bangladesh customs will feel that when there is COVID, he is left alone. He is there with us. We were there with us. Yes, we couldn't be there physically, but we were taking care of them in all possible ways. We had informal batch-wise online groups. Batch-wise means that there are different segments in our offices. So we had different groups so that those informal groups can help us having a coordination among all officers. We had a special transport or ambulance arrangement for the COVID-19 affected person and family members. If any officers felt any symptom of COVID-19, they were instructed to refrain from office and to do the COVID-19 test. And one thing I will mention is that when we were protecting or facing the COVID, it was important that we also included our stakeholders as well. Our customs broker were also part of our panel.
Mr. Tofail, could you please wrap up?
Yes, I will. And the last part of the discussion is protecting society. We also protected the society through integration of customs with health and safety responsibilities. The next question will be answered by Nipun Chakma. I think Nipun will answer the learnings we had from COVID period. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Am I audible right now?
Yes, you are. Bangladesh Customs.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank the WCO for arranging this much needed and important conference on human capital management, and it's an absolute honor for me to be here as a panelist from Bangladesh Customs. First of all, I'd like to make it clear that unlike the developed nations, Bangladesh, a developing nation, had to face a number of challenges to cope up with the pandemic situation, since all of our processes are manual and required hard copies, and we did not and still do not have the full-fledged automatic system. So our learnings might not be applicable for the developed nations, but might be applicable for the developing nations, which are working hard for automating the existing manual processes. The previous speaker, my colleague, has explained and said about the initiatives taken by Bangladesh Customs. Now, from those initiatives, that the learnings that we have learned, I'm sharing those with you. I categorize the learnings into 4 categories. The first one is automation or digitization of the processes and office procedures, which is very important to face the pandemic situation like COVID-19. Apart from the initiatives that were spoken by my colleague, I would like to supplement that during the pandemic, in our Bangladesh, no customs office had automated office management system. However, in a pandemic,
I believe we are losing Nipun from Bangladesh.
Okay, thank you for those panelists from Bangladesh Customs. Unfortunately, we lost Mr. Chakma, so please allow me to move on to the next question. And I was also informed that unfortunately the connection with Mali Customs, it didn't allow allow for the interpreter. So unfortunately, we cannot really continue asking them questions. Désolé à la douane de Mali. Merci pour votre participation. So please allow me to move on to the next question to Mr. Emery from IOM. So to be resilient, an organization needs to ensure that learning and development are at the heart of all that they do. In IOM, How does your learning and development strategy contribute to enhancing staff resilience? Please, Mr. Emery, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm just checking that you can hear me okay. Okay, very good. Well, firstly, good day to everybody. It's a real thrill for me to be here. As I'm not coming from a customs organization, I thought I would for 10 seconds introduce who IOM is. The International Organization for Migration is the UN's entity that deals with all facets of migration. Currently, we have a workforce component of over 30,000 people working in about 164 countries. Now, clearly, staff development and learning is critical, or has a critical role to play in building staff resilience. And certainly we've seen that since the beginning of the pandemic. And we see resilience in IOM as being able to roll with the punches and being able to absorb additional stresses. And it's a trait that is both innate and is also learned as well. And in order to look at the relationship between learning and resilience, our learning colleagues conduct a global learning needs assessment every year. And this provides IOM with an opportunity to identify the skills and the knowledge that they need to do their current job and to do it more effectively. We also conduct a global staff survey every 2 years, and this is something that gives us an incredibly rich amount of data or evidence that we need to generate resources for resilience type activities. Now, in addition to providing a number of courses online, and we have about 12,000 courses online that staff can avail themselves of, we also focus on skills related to resilience. And we make every effort to develop and provide initiatives based on the result of this global staff survey and of the needs analysis. And for example, there's a very clear example during the pandemic, one of the needs that came up very quickly was a training to help managers better manage remote teams. I think all of us in this room went very quickly to a hybrid work model where we had a lot of teams working remotely, and yet we didn't necessarily have the managerial skills and aptitude to actually manage those teams remotely. So I think that was an important initiative. These training needs analysis also allows us to provide learning activities which keep pace with the evolving needs of the organization and a very fast changing global migration context. Now, all of you who are working in customs understand that there is a very strong relationship also with migration, and you know that landscape is changing rapidly at the moment. And finally, there's a very strong link between the learning and development needs that we identify and then the work of our staff welfare team. And one of the things we acknowledged at the beginning of the pandemic was that this pandemic was going to be what we call a slow burn mental health crisis. And certainly both actual evidence and anecdotal evidence has absolutely shown that to be the case. So clearly whatever learning our learning team is doing has a very strong correlation at the moment between the activities of our staff welfare team. And I'll go into a little bit about that when we answer the second question, but back to you, Madam Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emery. Very informative explanation. If you could quickly continue answering those questions, those following questions. Taking into account the experience of your organization, what areas would you consider the priority for building resilience? And which initiatives has your organization introduced to adopt its work design and enhance its staff resilience? Please.
So straight back to me then?
Yes, please.
Okay. So in terms of the priority areas for building resilience, I think the first one is across the board, strengthening the organization's commitment to mental health at work. I know there's a lot of cultures out there that that don't really accept that mental health is an issue. They think that this is for people that are weak or something like that. It's not the case. So 1 in 3 staff in the United Nations will experience one of 4 identifiable mental health issues during the course of their career. That could be depression, it could be substance misuse, it could be anxiety, it could be a range of things. So that's the first one. We have to strengthen our commitment to mental health. The second one is we need the resources and the funds to do that. And I have to say, I have to give credit to my Director General, who at the beginning of the pandemic said to me, Michael, what do you need? And we went from having 3 staff welfare assets to having 18 now. And I tell you, those 18 assets, they're being used all the time. They're fully engaged. And the third aspect, I would say, is upholding people's right to participate in work. Now, we have to break that last one down a little bit. And how do we do that? Firstly, we need organizational interventions to target the risks of mental health and to improve work resilience. So these include psychosocial interventions, physical activity. A lot of people who are in very, very isolated locations or living in compounds, they have limited access to physical activity. So we really encourage that. And we also have a return to work program for people that have been suffering from mental health issues, and we're trying to get them back into the workforce. And we see that the important outcome there is reduced emotional distress and improved work-related outcomes. Now, the second part of that is manager training. And a lot of us make the mistake that managers know all about mental health and all about resilience by osmosis, and they don't. Managers need to be trained in this stuff as well. And we have actually introduced a leadership program on compassionate leadership, which also includes a component of anti-stigma or destigmatizing mental health issues. And what we see as an important outcome in this particular intervention is improved manager knowledge and attitudes and behaviors for mental health, and also improve workers' help seeking behaviors, including self-disclosure around mental health disorders to their managers. And so we're trying to destigmatize mental health in the workplace. And the third aspect of that is all staff training on mental health. And we talk about mental health literacy. Now, for example, 2 weeks ago, my mental health team did a very important intervention training on suicide awareness. During the pandemic, we had a number of suicides in IOM, and we felt that rather than keep that under the carpet, we thought it's better to put it out there. Let's talk about suicide. Let's talk about the trigger points. Let's talk about how we can assist colleagues who are struggling with that. And then finally, in terms of the initiatives that IOM has introduced to adapt its work design and to help resilience. Now, firstly, like everybody else, we've introduced flexible working arrangements, 2 days a week at home, up to 20 days a year working outside of the duty station remotely. And we've also done a lot of effort on providing webinars, workshops, managerial consultations, and individualized counseling to try and build that resilience as well. And finally, looking at undertaking psychosocial risk assessments, using data from our global survey to follow up with countries where there are significant red flags raised. And that's a good thing about a global staff survey, is that you can look at it holistically, look at it globally, and see where your problem areas are. And also doing a number of what we call pulse surveys on certain topics that allow us to make quick interventions. I'm very aware of time, Madam Moderator, so I'll leave it there, but if you want me to go into any more detail later, I'm very happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emery, for the constructive answers. Now, finally, please let me go back to the Controller General of Nigerian Customs, Mr. Vice Chair of the WCO-WCA region. The Customs Administration of WCO Western Central Africa region are evolving in a unique context in terms of security. As Vice Chair of this region, How can you and the leaders of customs administration in the region meet resilience challenge to achieve sustainable and inclusive growth? What measures should be taken at regional level in terms of enhancing employees' resilience? Please, you have the floor, Vice Chair.
I think here we're talking of a region, the West and Central African Republic, which generally has similar problems across board with regards to border management. Excuse me, with regards to border management, and therefore it becomes more unique for us to be able to work together, identifying our own issues, problems with regards to personnel and human resource management and requirement. And therefore, as a region, as one of the sub region of the WCO, we have long before now come up with ideas of how we can work together to be able to infuse our own ideas and across the board be able to assist our own people. And as a result of that, we came up with what we called security by collaboration, which is a concept that looks at our border as a whole and see how we can manage those borders in order to be able to have smooth trade in between us, and also ensure that the insurgencies and the banditry that affects our own day-to-day import-export processing along the borders are taken care of. And based on that, we as a region, developed this concept. And this concept has been in place for quite some time now. We've also come up with the joint border patrol management that we do between us and the neighboring countries of the sub-region. And here we establish common border patrol teams along our borders to be able to manage especially the land borders. Where we have sea and air borders, those are much easier to handle by individual countries. But where you have land borders between us, that is where most of the issue of illicit trafficking does happen. And therefore, we came up with this concept, and that has been working, and that we now infuse it with when the pandemic came in, which is one of the most devastating aspects of our life since the beginning of the economy. We therefore have to adopt those measures and infuse them within our own ideas. The other good news about the regional research project I mentioned earlier, that security by collaboration, is that we have been talking to each other on the issue of security and fragility of our borders. This awareness and consciousness put us in a better position to appreciate and chart a common cause. Measures that we took are such as sustenance of regional assistance program on customs matters within the framework of regional mutual administrative assistance. 2, encouraging employee exchange programs in training. 3, strengthening the work of WCO regional office for capacity building. And 4, embracing new ideas in human resource management as proposed by WCO, e.g., regional champions for human rights managers. This gives a sense of belonging, responsibility, and encourages ownership of customs administration. All of this in enhancing employees' resilience, capacity building in line with dynamic nature of the two regions. The two regions should ensure proper infrastructure are in place and in the near future. That will help in order to be able to integrate and especially in the IT infrastructure. We would be, once that is put in place between all the countries within the sub-region, then that will make it easier for integration and of course, process of day-to-day custom activities. As a matter of fact, what I mentioned in my first answer to your question was the similar aspect that we have adopted and we're working on it. And being the vice chair, currently we are trying to enhance that process and make it much more global. And then with the help of WCO expert, we need to develop that further and ensure that our regional administrations benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, so colleagues, we have heard the variety of experience in terms of organization resilience, including national, regional, and international organizations' experience, thanks to the wonderful panelists. Thank you once again for your valuable participation today. So, despite of some unfortunate connection problems, we had an excellent first day of this conference. So we started our day with an encouraging and insightful keynote speech by the Secretary General of the WCO, in which he expressed his expectations for inspiring success stories that would potentially impact the management of customs administrations. So to be shared in this conference. Throughout this afternoon, I think it's safe to say that our panels well met this expectation. I won't repeat each and every important aspect of this because I'm very mindful of time, and participants have been dedicated to this conference for quite some time now. So, but we heard many inspiring experiences from all the panelists and highlighted the absolute importance of people's health to make changes and to make our organizations more resilient through leadership, innovation, organization reform, and so on. So thank you once again for all the panelists today. So for those who are participating in person in this room, there is cocktail waiting for us outside the room. So on behalf of the WCO and all participants, I would like to thank Abu Dhabi Customs for providing us this valuable networking opportunity, and I'd like to invite everyone here to make the most of this opportunity. And the second day of this conference starts at the same time, 1 p.m. in Brussels time tomorrow. So bonne journée, bon après-midi, bonne soirée à tous. À demain. See you tomorrow, everyone.